we were going to talk about Sargon, right? Um, which is becoming just an increasingly, I don't know, terrible fucking thing to bring up. Because it literally just has been like one bad fucking headline after another since he decided to get involved about like a fucking month ago. And I think I've got the announcement here. Let me just check. Is this it? No. Let me. Yeah, here it is. So this was when it officially came through because basically they just like UKIP. I don't know if you guys know this. So because a lot of you guys probably aren't from the UK. So I need to put into a little bit of context about what's been happening over at UKIP. You see, UKIP in a post-Brexit landscape has become a very strange political party because it was I think the whole point was that eventually UKIP was going to get us like
You're not even a real journalist.
UKIP was going to drive awareness to encourage people to vote for Brexit.
PogChamp.
PogChamp indeed. Then we were meant to create a coalition government, I think, to basically with Brexit approving politicians to get us over the line. But what you quickly realized was, and listen, I was not, again, I continually have to say this, I wasn't for Brexit. And that was publicly my stance. Loads of people have always tried to say, you're a Brexiteer, like whatever the fuck that means, right? I mean, first of all, like I'm ever going to vote in UK politics anyway. What a waste of motherfucking time. I'm so sick of people telling me that, like, yeah, political apathy, it's what enables them to win. No, wrong. The rigged system is what enables them to win. And if you're giving me a choice between the conservative buffoons and just what passes for a Labour Party now, just a bunch of fucking wishy-washy, insubstantial, fucking policies. They're not even policies. It's like, how does anyone pick? You've got people who've been asleep at the wheel for 12 fucking years, just driving the country further down the fucking drain. Austerity measures up the ass. All of which, by the way, the roots of that don't come from conservatives. The roots of that, a lot of that is based in New Labour, which was just a very cloaked neo-conservative movement with Tony Blair and all of their, like, one of the most disgusting cabinets ever assembled. Like, it's no coincidence that around about that time, you had one of the most demonstrably corrupt cabinets in the UK and in the US, and we went out together and we pillaged the Middle East and any countries that disagreed with us like we were a modern bunch of Vikings. The ramifications for all of the foreign policy from the US-UK alliance at that time is still being felt to this day. And Tony Blair is a fucking war criminal, and George Bush is a fucking war criminal. And what we did in Iraq was an absolute disgrace. But anyway, so, look, I got on board with the whole New Labour thing because, I was brought up very pro-Labour, very anti-Thatcher, very anti-conservative. My parents always told me if I'd ever voted conservative, they would have disowned me. They would never have talked to me. All my family were like that. Like, never. And it never crossed my mind, but they all made it abundantly clear. But anyway, back to Brexit. By this point, I'm politically apathetic and I tapped out, so I didn't really have a dog in the fight. But just by all economic models that have been laid out by economists that were supposedly neutral, right? The reality, everything pointed to, if we leave Brexit, we're going to hit economic hardship. We were already a country that was in austerity. We were already a country that had billions of debt, that was struggling to pay it off. We already had essential services being slashed to the bone. So needless to say, I was anti-Brexit because why do we want to compound onto our economic misery? So even that night, I had I went to bed, like, me and my mates were up drinking, Remain was ahead. I was like, man, see, it's all bollocks. At the end of the day, we're not going to pull the trigger on this because say what you will about stupid people, even the stupid have self-interest. Well, unfortunately, what happened, like pretty much the last elections in America, and certainly for the referendum on Brexit, the amount of lying that was told definitely got ramped up. But I'll also add, everybody lies in elections since time immemorial. For as long as we've been having republics and democracies and any form of voting, somebody has been telling lies to win those competitions. That's just human nature. That's how it is. So the idea that lying is the grounds for like to do the election over is nonsensical, because we could never ever have an election decision. Because everybody lies, because it's politics, and we all know that they're liars. So, went to bed, woke up, bam, we've got fucking Brexit. And this is when I knew what a bunch of fucking charlatans we had in British politics, because unfortunately, the type of leader you needed for Brexit, for fucking good or ill, was someone that was at least strong and had a vision. Just like the way Margaret Thatcher's vision was to completely annihilate the working class in modern Britain. And my, didn't she come close to it? You almost have to admire the relentless evil that takes. But the force of will to get it done. Well, our current bunch of politicians ain't got a fucking backbone between them. They ain't got a spine. They ain't got a willpower. Like, Tony Blair was an evil little ruthless cunt. With Alistair Campbell and the spin doctor behind him, and fucking Gordon Brown and Blinky Blunkett and all the other fucking liars and thieves that made up Blair's cabinet. We don't have that now. We've got fucking Theresa May, who thinks doing this every now and then. Oh, look at me dancing, the dancing queen. I'm human. I'm not a lizard person in human skin. You know, they think doing that every fucking couple of months is like enough to like make you relate to them and shows like humanity and strength. No, you're just a bumbling fucking incompetent joke. But then, you know, when you understand that, she's almost like one of the best of a bad bunch. Like, let's look at the other bumbling cretins that were around the Brexit brigade. You had Boris Johnson, who, I love him on Have I Got News for You. You know, I'll have a good old laugh at Boris Johnson. I don't want him as the mayor of London. I don't want him involved in politics. He's an Etonian cunt who has basically, through his bumbling demeanor, been able to sort of be viewed as quite harmless and benign when he is a habitual liar and just everything that is wrong with British politics. Somebody who basically comes from an unbelievably super wealthy family, because of their connections goes to an unbelievably elitist school, then goes to an unbelievably elitist university, and then is immediately drafted into an unbelievably elitist world that generates even more money for these fucking toffs that don't need it, and on the cycle goes. These are not people, you know, people say, oh, you know, Donald Trump is a billionaire. Like, put it this way, if you're a New Yorker, you'll always have something of the common touch, no matter how wealthy you are, you know. Compared to, like, the Etonians and the hoi polloi of Britain, like, it's nothing. Like, these guys really are from another world and really do think of working class people as alien beings to basically be used for whatever devious purposes they want. You know, and let's keep in mind, right? Think about all the scandals you've had about Donald Trump, right? Can you imagine Donald Trump putting his dick in a dead pig's head's mouth? Can you imagine what the news cycle might look like if that ever happened? Well, David Cameron did that. Our Prime Minister fucked a dead pig's head, and this was just fine. Well, boys will be boys. Boys will be boys in our rich colleges. And boys will be boys. And we all just went back to fucking bed the next day. Like, well, I suppose our Prime Minister's putting his dick in a dead pig's head's mouth. I mean, this is fine, right? Google it. Google it right now. Shall I show you? I don't know how I get from Sargon to this. Right. Here we go. I'll go to the Guardian. I'll rely on you this time, Guardian. You will reinforce my bias. David Cameron, a pig's head, and a secret society at Oxford University. Explained. Right? An unofficial biography of David Cameron, written by the Conservative donor Lord Ashcroft, Understand, by the way, Lord Ashcroft is one of the biggest donors to the Conservative Party, has rubbed shoulders with all of these guys, and when he wrote this book, he didn't have any political agenda. So the idea he made this story up is absurd, and more than likely, like a lot of these wealthy motherfuckers, because they're also Boris Johnson burning £50 notes in front of homeless people and watching them cry and other nonsense, they're just not human. They're not human in the way that we are, right? So basically what they did... Probably what happened was that he wrote this and didn't realize the average person would find this to be repulsive. So, one specific allegation is that, in the words of the Daily Mail, Cameron took part in an initiation ceremony in which he put a private part of his anatomy, that's his knob, guys, into a dead pig's mouth. It cites a source, a current member of parliament, who claims to have seen the photographic evidence. It allegedly took place at the notorious Oxford University drinking club, the Pierce Gaveston Society. So, right? So basically, our Prime Minister, there's a photo somewhere of him sticking his knob in a dead pig's head, and this story broke. Like, and it just went out and it did the rounds and it was gone the next day. We all just went, yeah, of course he did. Of course he did. We literally all just went, well, of course he did. He went to Eton. He was in the Bullerston Club or whatever the fuck they were called. The Bullingdon Club, that was it. And again, for those that don't know, right, just to show you how much of a nightmarish clique British politics is, there's this group called the Bullingdon Club, which is an exclusive all-male dining club at Oxford University. And it's had David Cameron, former Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne, former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, Nick Hurd, the current Minister of State for the Policing and Fire Services, and just tons of elite people and important people. Look at all the politicians that have come through the ranks down the years. Look at all the big business people that have come down the years. Look at all the journalists, the Daily Mail journalists, you know. That's what the Bullingdon Club is, right? So it's like, again, a lot of people talk about, oh, politics in America. Yeah, it's bad. But, like, we got some fucking rotten stuff going on in the UK that we just haven't got rid of. And, oh, but Richard, it's all about tradition. It's all about tradition. You're just poor. You're from a poor background, and that's why you hate a buller man. A buller man is bred to lead. And I think that was another famous quote that came out about David Cameron. David Cameron said that he was bred to lead the country because he'd attended, like, Eton, he'd attended Oxford, and all these high-level things. So, you know, it's pretty wild. But anyway, right. The problem that we had post-Brexit was that all of the people that basically had said, listen, we're going to get you over the finish line, we're going to do this Brexit thing, none of them expected to win. And not only did none of them expect to win, the parties in power didn't expect them to win, so there was zero plans for Brexit. So when we all woke up that day, we went, what? It happened. It happened. We're doing a Brexit. We're actually doing a Brexit. Nobody had a plan. And even the big people who drove it, Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage had to come out. And I don't know if anybody has seen this unbelievable interview with Nigel Farage, where he literally, the day after Brexit was announced, had to admit that one of the big things, which was a claim... let me find this. Yeah, here we go. There was this big claim on this, and it went round on advertisements on the side of a bus around the UK, where basically they said, oh, we will take, like, I don't know what it was, like, we'll be able to put, like, 20 million back into the NHS if we come out of the European Union, which was just a lie. It was just a barefaced lie. And the day after Brexit, Farage had to come out and went, well, yes, we did tell a lie. But not to worry, Brexit's still going to happen. And basically what he did was immediately he left UKIP. And was like, I'm out, guys. I'm out of this shit. Was it 350 million? Yeah. I'll play you the interview. He literally pieced the fuck out because nobody wanted to deal with the reality of what they just created. I don't want to answer your questions, YouTube. I don't want to.
The £350 million a week we send to the EU, which we will no longer send to the EU.
Love this. You always know when the answer you're going to get is going to be rough. Big Swallow. Watch this Big Swallow. He looks like someone out of Jurassic Park trying to eat a fucking leaf. Look how big this swallow is for body language.
A week we send to the EU, which we will no
Look at that. Fucking hell. Fuck me. I'm having a swallow.
EU, which we will no longer send to the EU.
The last of the moisture in my mouth.
Go to the NHS.
No, I can't, and I would never have made that claim.
17 million people have voted.
You did make that
for
claim.
leave.
Yep.
Based, I don't know how many people voted on the basis of that advert, but that was a huge part of the propaganda. You're now saying that's a mistake.
We have a £10 billion a year, a £34
That's
million
not answering the question, Nigel.
That is going to be free money that we can spend on the NHS, on schools, or whatever it is.
But you're not guaranteeing that that money, as promised, will go to the NHS.
You must understand, I was ostracised by the official Leave campaign and as I've always done, did my own thing.
Do you think there are other things that people will wake up this morning and find out aren't going to happen as a result of voting this way?
Well, I tell you what they will find out, that we're back to being a normal country, in charge of our own laws, and able to start making our own relationships with the rest of the world, maybe even re-engaging with the Commonwealth and the real friends we got out.
Donald Trump's flying into Scotland as we speak. Will you be speaking to the Republican nominee? He's obviously, like you, he's a very populist candidate, non-political type who's fighting hard on immigration and so on. Do you see parallels with his campaign and the one that you fought?
I've been compared to many things over the years, but not Donald Trump as yet. But thank you. Thank you for that.
Is that a new low for you, Nigel?
It's a bit early of a day for that sort of thing. Look, you know, there is something happening in American politics that perhaps is a bit of a mirror of what's happening here. A feeling in much of America that what happens in Washington is too detached, too remote, and Trump is cashing in on some of it. I don't agree with everything he says, but he must have a chance of winning.
Final message for the people watching this who did not vote for this, who are pretty shocked. I'm reading it on Twitter. Yeah. They're like, what has happened to my country? I can't believe it. They fear that we've now become a kind of semi-racist Little Englander mentality country overnight.
Because they're mentally ill.
To people that genuinely fear that.
I know a lot of Remain voters did it reluctantly. They did it because they believed the scaremongering and the fear stories about economics. All of that is wrong. And I
believed them. Look good to me.
Listen, guys and girls, we're living in a 21st century global economy. We have just broken free from a backward, failing political union. The world is now our oyster.
When are you having your first pint, Nigel?
Or have you had it?
I've had a couple already.
Fuck, brilliant. 6:30 in the morning. Just admit that on TV, mate. Definitely makes you seem like a reasonable political candidate. But anyway, off the back of Brexit, right, what you have to remember is there was a big schism in the party because basically Farage left. All of the old kind of people that wanted what it stood for, United Kingdom Independence Party, a lot of them fucking bailed. Yeah, he's not doing anything for the stereotype about British people having bad teeth.
That's right.
So
17 months, baby.
Yes, C-Box. Good to see you. So a lot of those politicians like Farage that had actual name recognition and pulling power, they left UKIP. And then after Farage went, let me find the name of this guy. Let me show you the list of UKIP leaders after fucking Farage went. That's the cunt. Paul Nuttall. And I don't know if you I don't know how many of you guys know about this Paul Nuttall guy, but Paul Nuttall was way more hardline than Nigel Farage. So we ended up with, Paul Nutter, you might lovingly call him. He looks like a smooth twat. Just look at that face, look at that smile. You know, you wouldn't leave your drink unattended around him, would you? It's just unbelievable. And right, look, political views for Paul Nuttall. He said that he wanted to cut the term time on abortion down to 12 weeks. He wanted bans on burqas in public and wanted no Sharia courts in the UK. and also said that migration laws gave free movement to the current migration laws we had in the EU gave migratory movement to jihad, free movement to jihad. He wanted to bring back in death for child murderers, serial killers, and people who kill police officers, whatever the circumstances. He was a climate change denier. On top of that, he also said as well, UKIP would ban kids from seeing Al Gore's An Inconvenient Truth, saying it's a blatant piece of propaganda. Not like anything UKIP would ever produce, of course. And listen, not saying I'm wildly against all karate chop fucking child murderers on the back of the neck when they're not looking. Not saying I'm against that. But, you know. Then he also was... he wanted to oppose LGBT inclusive sex ed in schools. So basically, you went to school, and it was like what I learned. I know we didn't learn about gay people or lesbians in our sex ed. This is like literally how our sex ed went. Lesson 1, this is a penis. This is a vagina. All the kids giggling. Lesson 2, you put it in, and this happens. And then lesson 3 was just watching a full labour video of just an actual birth. Just a bloody baby's head. Like something out of a horror film. And most of us were just too terrified to ever have sex or talk about it again. So that was how I learned sex ed when I was at school. And there were no such things as gays. And there were no such things as lesbians. We just didn't know what that was. So that was sex ed for me. So again, I think I turned out pretty fucking normal, all things considered. I'm pretty open-minded, but I'm not even exaggerating to saying this must have been, you know, the 90s. You know, this isn't ancient history, but in my school they absolutely did not teach us about homosexual relationships. Anyway, so basically he wanted to keep gays away from children, which if you remember, Nick Griffin from the BNP, he was the guy who went on Question Time and said, if you ask me, most people find the sight of two grown men kissing really creepy. And this was brilliant because we banned the BNP from talking on the BBC. They weren't allowed to talk on the BBC television. And we finally had him on, and everyone was, boo! Boo, this is terrible! We've got the BNP on! I've always said, give these cunts enough rope and they'll hang themselves, right? So he came on, and apropos of nothing, by the way, somebody said, you're a homophobe! And he went, now listen, I'm not a homophobe, but if you were to ask me, most people in Britain would find the sight of two grown men kissing really creepy. And that's the exact words he used. Everyone was just like, I mean, brilliant. I mean, who by definition, that's homophobic, you idiot. Also, he followed up when Donald Trump was banging on about torture. You know what Donald Trump was like on the campaign trail. There was this one bit where somebody said, and if you ask me with my tiny hands, I would torture the bastards. I would torture ISIS. There was some mad quote he did. So again, this Paul Nuttall guy just came out and said, yeah, we should waterboard people. We should totally have torture. That'd be brilliant. I love that. So anyway, they had him, right, for a bit. But then there was a controversy, I'm pretty sure, that got rid of him. I can't remember what the fuck it was. But he ended up quitting. And then, so he was bad. And then after Paul Nuttall, very briefly, there was a guy called Henry Bolton, right? And if you look at Henry Bolton, you'll understand immediately he was clearly related to fucking Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones. Look at that cunt. Look at that cunt. What's your name, Sargon? Da, 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 da. YouTube sends its regards. Na, 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 na. Right. So you had this cunt, Henry Bolton, who, to be fair to him, is an OBE, which for those that don't keep up with knighthoods and all of that shit, he's the Order of the British Empire, right? So that's quite a serious title, you know. He's a heavy political hitter. He's been around for a while, and what made his introduction to the to UKIP as the leader kind of interesting was, for years he was a Liberal Democrat, which you had Labour, you had Conservatives, and then in the UK you had a third party, which were ostensibly tried to be a balance of the two. Not radical socialist, not radical right wing. A lot of people moved over to the Lib Dems from Labour because they were like talking about, you know, sensible policies for marijuana laws and things like this. So this guy being the leader of UKIP was a pretty interesting move, because politically he'd always been, for want of a better term, a bit of a centrist. But one of the things that he was very adamant on was immigration laws and everything else. And anyway, there was what was the big fucking drama that got rid of this cunt? Hang on, I gotta read this. I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to get my Yeah, but why did they vote him out? Right, here we go. So in January 2018, it became known that Bolton has left his wife and had embarked on an affair with Jo Marnie, a model and party member nearly 30 years his junior. So, you know, I don't see the problem with that. As a consequence, Bolton faced demands from members of UKIP that he stand down as leader. It's interesting, isn't it? Paul Nuttall's out there saying we should just torture some motherfuckers for banter. I'm getting a woman 30 years younger than me, which, by the way, that would have made her like 26. Like, I mean, but yeah, that is a bit weird. But whatever. He's got to stand down. I bet he didn't fly to New Zealand to get it though. But whatever. And then, on the 14th of January, it was reported that Marnie had been suspended from UKIP following allegations that she'd sent a series of text messages. Yes, this was it. So he was fucking some young girl, right? And then she had sent racist text messages about that Meghan Markle, the one who married Prince Harry, right? And also said that, like, it was a good thing immigrants died in the Grenfell fire. That was it. So now it was really bad, because he was not only having sex with someone 30 years younger than him, he was having sex with 30 years younger than him, and she was a massive racist, like an unequivocal racist. So in the end, loads of people left UKIP, right? And this is the thing. Unfortunately for him, he was actually a moderate. He was actually a guy that wasn't that bad, but because he was getting some young strange, and the young strange happened to be racist, his political career was over, because that's how it works in the UK. We're just weird and sanctimonious about sex in a lot of ways, you know? Like, again, you think about Donald Trump, shut up, porn star. Shut up. And we all know he did it. We all know he paid all them porn stars that he had sex with while his own wife was pregnant. This wouldn't fly in Britain. Like, you couldn't be a politician and do that in Britain, right? Like, no fucking way. And yeah, and obviously Macron with his creepy, I mean, fucking hell. His fucking wife probably breastfeeds him at night. It's that creepy, you know what I mean? Like, right? But basically, in Britain, like, if that ever gets out public, you absolutely can't do that. Like, you just can't in Britain for some reason. So that's what it was. So unfortunately, at this point, what happened was UKIP loses a lot of its infrastructure. The one guy who could have been vaguely sensible, because say what you will about Henry Bolton, he's not a racist. He has some pretty, like, I wouldn't even say hardline immigration policies, but strong immigration policies. And he's been a very vocal proponent of, you know, he's anti, obviously, like you see, he spoke out about female genital mutilation happening in Britain, which immediately people on the extreme left go, you're just an Islamophobe. It's like, wait, I thought protecting women from having their genitals fucking wrecked would make me a feminist, but apparently not. It makes me a racist. I don't understand anymore. But he was like a pretty reasonable guy. And had he been able to stay in leadership of the party, none of this in UKIP would be happening right now. But then what happened was, along came a guy called Gerard Batten, and Gerard Batten is the fucking chucklehead that UKIP has now, and Gerard Batten is an absolute fucking train wreck. So he's like basically decided to make UKIP this gimmicky party to try and regain seats, to try and regain, like some sort of vague political interest, to put UKIP back in the spotlight. That's pretty much what he said. I want to put us back in the spotlight, put UKIP back in the spotlight. And you can see, like, just some of the recent stuff here. He's very strongly aligned with that Geert Wilders, or Geert Wilders, if you say it that way, Geert Wilders, over in Holland, who's the anti-Islam politician. So he's very vehemently against freedom of movement when it comes to Islam. Look, I'll just read you one of his quotes here. This is when he was talking about right, let me just give you the whole thing. So, following the invitation from UKIP peer Lord Pearson for Wilders to screen his film to members of the House of Lords. Yeah, this is where Geert Wilders made a film saying Islam's bad and it's bad for Europe, and he said everyone in the House of Lords should watch this. Like, basically, this guy, Gerard Batten, was his man on the inside to sort of get that, it's like to Trojan horse that into the mainstream politics. But anyway, then he said here, we can't do anything about murderers, rapists, and pedophiles coming from the EU, but they will stop a democratically elected politician from the EU talking about the source of terrorism. Which, again, we can do things to stop murderers, rapists, and pedophiles coming from the EU. And we do stop murderers, rapists, and pedophiles coming from the EU. We have Interpol, we have law enforcement agencies, we have people checking criminal backgrounds. But, of course, our immigration services, like everything else, has been slashed to the bone. People slip the net, and occasionally you get terrible situations, like that guy from, I think it was Lithuania, who murdered like a woman in London and was already wanted for another murder in his native country. So the other thing he's been doing, and this is another thing that a lot of old school UKIPers have been really against, is he's been saying, we will march with Tommy Robinson. We think the censorship of Tommy Robinson in the UK is a disgrace. And it's a very tough one for me, because you have to understand that I've known of Tommy Robinson for a long, long time. He's been a cancer in British politics for decades. He's been associated with pretty much every far-right movement. Like, again, real far-right. Not this, but real far-right movements. People who literally come and burn mosques and beat up Muslims and do everything else. And Tommy Robinson's always been there lurking in the background going, what are you censoring this for, mate? What are you censoring this for? This is a guy so dumb, he uploads YouTube videos of him punching immigrants in the face and then says, like, fucking, but yeah, I'm not anti-immigrant, mate. I'm not using this as an excuse for a ruck. And the thing that always pissed me off about Tommy Robinson was when Tommy Robinson started calling himself a journalist, and everyone just went along with this and went along with it as being an accurate description. Tommy Robinson is a hooligan turned, because of the wonderful virtues of the British political system, turned very light, political activist campaigner. And now is posing as a journalist to continue his aggressive assault on people that actually aren't doing anything wrong most of the time. Now, he's made some points that I definitely think you need to agree with. You look at the grooming gangs and how, police, for example, have like literally told victims of grooming gangs that they will not accept their reports of a crime, and because they don't want to get involved, they don't want it to be racist. This is a disgrace. This is a massive police failing. Nobody has any disagreement with that, as far as I can tell it, in the country. Even very liberal Labour politicians have said this has been a massive police failing. It's a massive failing to the victims, and these things need to be reported on and brought to light. I think that's generally the stance. Unfortunately, what starts happening is, with old hyperbolic Tommy Robinson, is they're all grooming gangs. We must stop the, did you know that more Pakistani men are grooming than non-Pakistani men? And it's like, fucking hell, mate. Like, guilt by association is what you claim is being done to you, yet that is your entire fucking worldview. So, while I can be against the fucking censorship of Tommy Robinson and him going to jail on what appeared to be very flimsy terms, although he did film somebody out of a courthouse after having been found in contempt for having done that before. And there's a reason why we protect people, because you're not helping the victims if you put them on camera. I'll tell you that for free. So there was a lot of issues around that, but in the end, it was deemed that it was unjust, it was unfair, and his life was at risk in prison, and he was in solitary confinement, and I find that inhumane. So it's a tough one for me. But if you're a political party and you're going marching in solidarity with this guy, that's that's a yank from me. I mean, like I can't get on board with that, because I remember when this guy was literally just, EDO. I remember that Tommy Robinson. Until he renounces that part of his past, until he ever comes out and even admits that part of his past, I can't do it. I can't get on board with marching in solidarity or support with a guy who I know in his heart is a piece of shit. He's a piece of shit. So anyway, this new guy, this Jared Batten, basically wants to march in solidarity with Tommy Robinson. All the old school UKippers are like, nah, that's me out. And at this point, all you are left with is the novelty of negative headlines. That is what UKIP has become. They are a party that is in decline, right? In decline. And you can see, like, look at this, you can look at the election history and look at the kind of numbers they're pulling. In some places, less than the BNP. In this general election in Maidenhead, 871 below the Green Party. Just above, not just above, but above the Animal Welfare Party. This is unfortunately what UKIP has become. Now, with all of that history laid out for you, right? Let me introduce to you his next fucking brainstorm, which is to get all the fucking chuckleheads from YouTube who generate all this, like, the world's gone mad, censorship. I mean, look, there's a lot of truth in what they say. I wish Count Dankula hadn't fucking signed up to this, because I know Dank's a good guy. Sargon, he was always going to get on board with this, because at the end of the day, he's increasingly having his, he's going to be the next person to be completely unpersoned. And you know why? Because he's an idiot, and he's not clever enough to play within the parameters of this new playing field. He fucks up every time. Every time someone puts a microphone in front of him, every time he gains access to Twitter, every time he records a video, Sargon fucks up. Whereas Dankula is actually very clever. Now, there are some people who say he's very clever and he's hiding a secret agenda of racism and everything else under the surface. He's not. He's hiding. He's not even hiding it. I mean, like, he's hiding basically a complete absolutist free speech view. And that unfortunately means that he will go and talk to some bad dudes. I wish he wouldn't, because when you see Count Dankula shaking hands with fucking Tommy Robinson, it's not doing him any favors. It's not doing him any favors when you have a criminal conviction for hate speech and then you go and stand next to Tommy Robinson. You're making your life harder, and you shouldn't be making your life harder, because you're not a bad dude. You're not like him. You'd never punch an immigrant. You know what I mean? You're not that guy. But you're going to stand with that guy because of some notion of free speech absolutism. And that's great, but it's only going to get you so far. And now you've got involved in this fucking shit show. And so just listen to this announcement, right? We went through an exhaustive process to sift over 190 potential candidates down to those the National Executive Committee representatives and I felt were more suitable. The list is based on a number of factors that we felt would select candidates to fight for a real Brexit after the European elections. The UKIP's priority is to have MEPs who will fight to make Brexit happen. The full list will be released in due course. And if you go down here, you'll see basically Carl Benjamin in the southwest, right? That's Sargon of Akkad, and that's no Doxerino. Everyone knows his name by now. So, from the moment this was announced, obviously, like, Sargon thought he cracked it, man. He was like the fucking cat who got the proverbial cream. What he doesn't realize is he was literally being used because of his YouTube following, because of all of that stuff. And it from the get-go, right, I've told so many people this, and this is the best advice I can give anybody. Once you have chosen the path you want to walk down and what you want to be, you cannot do a 180, deviate, pivot, whatever you want to call it, and go back and do something else. I will never be able to run for office. Right? I've accepted that. I've been embroiled in way too many controversies. I've said too many things. I'm on record as being like, anti-Chinese government, for example. So let's say if I managed to negotiate he worked at Breitbart, people say he's a racist. Didn't he write this article saying radical Islam was bad one time? I'll have to negotiate all of that, thinking about it in my own mind. And then, who knows what falsehoods are also going to get perpetuated about me while I'm up to that. And then on top of that, well, he hates the Chinese government. How could you ever appoint anybody who hates the Chinese government? There's no way I could ever do it. There's too much shit there. There's too much shit there for me. The good news is, what I do have a reputation of doing is being a pretty fucking spot-on journalist with an unbelievable record for accuracy, someone who has never been embroiled in any controversy related to that. The door for me to be a journalist of any standing in any line of work, it will always be open to me. And it's just as well, because that's what I've pretty much spent 15, 20 years of my life doing. So I'll always be okay, right? When it comes to journalism, there will always be a door open to me in that. Now, I can do some other things. I can be a TV host. I can be a YouTuber. I can be a streamer. And do all of that, right? Those doors will always be open to me. But long term, the one door that will never be fully closed will always be journalism, right? I'll never be able to run for office. I'll never be able to work representing a charity. These are all things I've accepted, right? I accepted. When I opened my mouth, I accepted it. When I said these things, I accepted it. When I took the stands I took, I accepted it. When I did things I did, I accepted it. I knew it was coming. What Sargon of Akkad has done, because he's such an egomaniac, is he thought he would be able to say all of this outrageous shit and just do whatever he wants for the rest of his life. And it doesn't work like that. There is a toll that you pay. It's like, I don't want to compare Sargon of Akkad to any truly great revolutionary. But obviously, the truly great revolutionaries get that, don't they? They say, right, I'm going to do this. It's like going on a hunger strike and then expecting someone to come up with the old David Blaine trick and give you an intravenous drip when no one's looking. Don't work like that, motherfucker. If you're not prepared to starve to death, don't go on a hunger strike. And that's Sargon of Akkad. Sargon of Akkad is the only man who mysteriously gains weight on a hunger strike. He claims to have all these fucking principles that he'll stand for, but he wants to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants. And it's like, no. So, one of the things that definitely came up a lot was, I don't know if you remember what happened with, he got into an argument with, what was the name of that politician? Jess Phillips. And this was a long time ago. Yeah, here she is, Jess Phillips, right. So basically, and I'm not all about giving her the entire fucking spotlight, because context definitely matters. But what Sargon did was, right, basically, Jess Phillips, this politician, was talking about freedom of speech and how she felt there had to be some limits on freedom of speech. And Jess Phillips is a hysterical shrieking. There's Nazis everywhere. They're out to get us. The right wing is more powerful than it ever has been. As if, we're not talking about a bunch of fucking double chin, no neck, one-toothed losers who all live in their basement. I mean, I've seen the face of modern racism, and it's not anything to be afraid of. They're not going to rise up and take over the country anytime soon. Half of these cunts can't rise up off the couch. They're every bit as pathetic and worthless as you think they would be. So she had made some comments about male suicide in the past, right? So I'll also incorporate that. Try and get the exact timeline for you. Basically, I think what had happened was she'd rose to prominence because just before the time, some guy had talked about men's rights, and I think this was in Parliament. So I think this was in March 2018, right? And I think this is when this is just after when this blew up. So let me just get you an exact date here. Is that it? in the HuffPost article. Why don't they have the date on that? Anyway, so look, just to contextualize, okay? Jess Phillips had laughed at a politician saying that men had some rights too, and men faced issues that women didn't. And this included a higher rate of suicide and everything else. So, as a result of that, she was basically targeted, and then we got into this argument back and forth about freedom of speech and how a lot of people hide behind freedom of speech to harass women. You have to understand, this is the same woman who said that reports that there was this instance of sexual assault in Cologne where a large group of people went and assaulted people. They went and were sexually assaulting women, and it turned out that the majority of this group of people were immigrants into Germany, and the police were being suppressed from saying that. Right? She basically said that was all nonsense and that it was just, racist propaganda, even though it was coming from German police themselves. So she said a lot of dumb shit, and that was how her and Sargon got to beefing. So she said that you can have freedom of speech, but harassment of women must be deemed unacceptable within the boundaries of that freedom of speech. And she said, in particular, she'd seen some rape threats. So Sargon, who'd been arguing with her because her views of freedom of speech seemingly incorporated mocking men and male suicide statistics, decided to say, I wouldn't even rape you. Hashtag anti-rape threats. Hashtag feminism is cancer. Right? And he turned around and said that was a joke. And this is what I mean about the guy not being that clever. Right? It's like, there's a way to win this argument and make Jess Phillips look like the demagogue she is. Instead, what you did was you made her look like a victim, and you like an unbelievable antagonist that was basically holding a threat of rape over her head in one form or another. So saying I wouldn't even rape you is so unbelievably beyond what we're talking about here. But listen, if you want to be an edgelord and you want to be a comedian, then that's probably not the most outrageous thing that's ever been said. Here's the problem. She's a politician, and now you think you get to stray into her backyard where she has the friends, and she has the contacts, and she has the experience, and she has access to the media, and she has the platform, and you think you just get to fucking waltz into that arena and you're not going to get absolutely crucified, which again shows the hubris of the man. Because he should have understood that was coming. And yes, you were going to be misrepresented. Of course you were. They were going to use your words in the worst context possible. Which, by the way, the worst context possible is only one up from the actual context in which it was said. It's not like there's this huge degree, and actually it's a very reasonable statement. You basically gave them the ammunition. You literally put a loaded gun on the table, put it in their hand, said, you won't shoot me. And yeah, they will shoot you, mate. They will shoot you every time. And for you to not have that awareness, to even be involved in politics after that, you have literally killed your entire career and you don't even know it yet. Because all these people who've been in person, the Milos of this world, everyone else, he's next. 100%. He is gone. Soon, his YouTube channel will be banned, not just demonetized, and he will be gone. But we'll come to all of that in a second. Anyway, so Jess Phillips wanted to make a point here about freedom of speech, and of course, the HuffPost laid it all out and basically said we need to reclaim the internet and protect women and everything. This all came off the back of that. Here's another thing, by the way. It's really bad. I think this video has been taken down on YouTube. Do we still? Yeah, of course it's unavailable. It's really bad when you are saying to female politicians, I wouldn't even rape you, when, quote, you did a video about Elliot Rodger, right? Elliot Rodger. I don't even know if we're supposed to mention him on platforms. Elliot Rodger was a mass murderer who a lot of people have basically held up as sort of the principal founder, if you like, in philosophy of the incel movement. That this is a guy who was so frustrated and not being able to get sex and everything else, he decided to go and just kill a bunch of people because he's a worthless piece of shit. And this was in California. And in particular, I want to say he got 6 people. How many of them were women? They weren't all exclusively women, were they? I think he killed some chads as well, as he put it. And he injured 13 others, and then he turned the gun on himself, like all of these fucking cowards do. And this was at a time before we had this. This was at a time before the media realized we need to stop glorifying the evil, depraved shit these people do, so everybody knows his name. Now, if you're a guy, and you're joking about rape, maybe it's better you don't have the following quote on record. And this was in response to a Lacey Green, notorious YouTube feminist. This is a sex education proponent. He literally said this in a video, which is now deleted. Before your stupid social justice feminine bullshit, mass murders didn't happen on this scale. This is talking about Elliot Rodger. It's crazy. This is a disease of the modern age, and you are feminists are responsible for perpetuating it by disenfranchising these poor fucking guys who don't have any options left. When someone takes the option of absolute insanely last resort, you have to wonder what kind of system is producing them. And I'll tell you what, Lacey, it's a fucking feminist system that is doing this. So you see, he says that the cause of a man going out and killing a bunch of women and men because he can't get laid and he hates himself, it's really the feminists' fault. It's really the women's fault. And he has this quote on record, and then he makes a joke about how he wouldn't even rape a female politician. Are you already starting to see the problem with Sargon of Akkad's mind? Because again, first of all, I don't even know how you arrive at the conclusion that it's a woman's fault that a mass shooter went out and killed a bunch of women. I can't do that. And then second of all, maybe keep the rape jokes to one side if you know you're on record as saying that, because what a rough connection those two quotes are. Hey, woman, I wouldn't even rape you. By the way, here I am saying Elliot Rodger did nothing wrong and was actually driven to it by feminists. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to take me too long to be able to portray you as a dangerous woman-hating individual, whether or not that's what you are, right? That's just two things. Let me give you another example of him as when the Me Too movement started coming out. And again, there's many nuanced takes on the Me Too movement. I myself have talked about this, that the problem with the Me Too movement is that finally we had a feminist movement that was holding powerful sexual predators in industries typically where accountability was at an all-time minimum, an all-time low, and finally they were getting called out. But for every Harvey Weinstein it exposed, you had an Aziz Ansari who just went on a bad date with a girl, had some consensual fondling, and then because she wanted to go home and he called her an Uber, he was as bad as Harvey Weinstein. You know, you ended up with this like really ridiculous thing with Brett Kavanaugh, which I'm never going to get on board with because, you know, innocent until proven guilty and all that. And if you don't believe in that founding principle, I hope they never take it away from you, especially when it's very clearly politically motivated. But, you know, this is, this is nothing compared to what Sargon said. So, during this is so bad. Please tell me they left this video up.
I think this is really.
So he did a video over on his second channel called The Thinkery, where he gave his opinion about the Me Too movement. And it's like, again, it's not even that. There might be something wrong in the sentiment. But what are you even saying when you say this? So,
being a giant fucking man baby and having loads of money and power. I don't actually think this is to do with feminism, really.
No.
I think there were gold digging whores who would accept fucking Harvey Weinstein for cash.
Yeah. And then a few that wouldn't.
It gives you a fucking migraine, guys. Like, you know, gold, right? The phrase gold digging whores just has, it's got no place next to a case about a powerful sexual predator in Hollywood. But again, let's just tie it to the other things. You've made a rape joke towards a female politician you're having a disagreement with over the parameters of free speech. And prior to that, you have basically defended Elliot Rodger.
You're not even a real journalist.
Now, again, I am not
That's right.
a super powerful, super intelligent journalist. I don't traffic in politics. I don't anymore when it comes to writing for a serious publication. In fact, the only politics I ever wrote about was, did I do a little bit over at The Guardian? Anyway, no, it was, yeah, NUS counts. All right, so I had been at The Guardian. I had like some little stuff published when I was a student writer. But obviously Breitbart, right, doesn't count as a serious political publication. But let me tell you, as a guy who has been around the block, this is already enough to make you look like some deranged potential incel killer. And it gets worse. It just gets so much worse. And then on top of that, when asked by someone on that live stream over on the Thinkery, hang on, somebody said, let me get the exact quote for you. Hang on, it's hard to keep up with all of this stuff. Because we haven't even got to his modern campaign faux pas. But again, imagine having all of this in your closet and then you think, yeah, I'll run for office. No journalist will find my YouTube channel. Are you fucking serious? And then he adds the nerve in all of these interviews, by the way. He comes out and he says, well, people can go to my YouTube channel and listen to it themselves. I am. It's not good, is it, mate? Are you fucking serious? So anyway, somebody who came on the live stream said, you called the rape victims whores, and he just went, he basically like dismissed it and said, nah, most of these are women who were just pestered by Harvey. So like, it completely ignored all of the findings. So
You are calling allegedly rape victims whores?
No, most of these are women who are just like pestered by Harvey, apparently.
Honestly, I don't think.
have you read up? Because again, I read the Harvey Weinstein transcriptions and the story of what came out when it first broke, and I detailed all the abuses on a live stream, funnily enough, much like Sargon did there. And this included some unbelievable stuff, which again, innocent until proven guilty, but there's a world of difference between one woman whose own witnesses don't corroborate her story and fucking 30 women, all of which are actresses with things to lose, like it's a little bit different. But anyway, he's also said that women becoming involved in politics is why society is declining. I'm not joking, guys. Oh God. Let me get you this. Well, look, I can't. I don't know if I can play that. Let me see.
Because men.
I mean, I should be able to play this because I hope Trainwreck isn't gonna fucking take it off me, because I did help script this episode for him. I did help write the questions and the topics. So hopefully Trainwreck isn't gonna do it. But just listen.
Ones who are generally involved in politics, which is something different. Now women are also involved in politics, and frankly, society is declining. You know, the actual sort of health of the society. Like, think about like in was it World War One or Two, where they went around giving out white roses and stuff like this. You know, that's not going to happen now. No one's gonna. There's not going to be any kind of social pressure. All the social pressure was always driven by women.
It's fucking painful. Like, just the mad. Again, it's incelatry. Like, just all the fucking stuff that. You know, like, fucking hell, like, the data points as well. Like, anybody who tells you that there is a data point that society is declining, be incredibly dubious about that person. I don't understand what that would even mean. It means different things to different people. It certainly, you know, means different things to left-wing people and right-wing people. And very good, thank you. And all of the people in between. I won't get into the identity politics stuff. Most recently, something came up about the age of consent. And age of consent is a tricky one. America drives a lot of these cultural conversations, as I've said multiple times. And in America, in a lot of they have state by state age of consent, but generally it's considered a bit of anathema if somebody below 18 has sex. I'm from the UK. 16-year-old is an age of consent, and if you go to other European countries, I want to say France, I think is 15. And in Spain, as long as the person is within 3 years or 2 years of the woman, it can be as low as 13, I think. And Sweden is 15. So, you know, for example, two 13-year-olds having sex in Spain is fine. A 15-year-old having sex with a 13-year-old in Spain is fine. 20-year-old having sex with a 13-year-old in Spain is against the law. They have a very different legal framework to a lot of Europe, but in most of Europe, you'll find 16 or 15 is the age of consent.
That's right.
Fuck, how can I make this go away?
What, the sub? How do you make the sub go away? You stop subbing. You just cancel it on PayPal. If that's what you're talking about. And listen, in a lot of countries around the world, the age of consent is lower, right? But in America, it's 18. So when they talk about minors and sex with minors, that can encompass what most Western Europeans would see as being within the age of consent. Not in all states. Some states, it's low. So age of consent is always an area that's going to get thorny and trip people up. But let me just show you this one. Right. You see, remember, a lot of people like to tag
the age of
what a lot of people like to tag, like, you know, Destiny, other streamers out there as being like, you know, weird. Yeah, for some reason, nobody has ever tagged Sargon with this. Whereas in this interview that he did with another streamer while they were having a discussion about the age of consent, this guy said, I was under 11 when he started having sex. And in this interview, he was basically saying that he believed the age of consent should be on a case-by-case basis, and in some instances, it should be as low as like 11 or 12 or whatever. So the problem you've got with that is, right, even if as a fucking intellectual exercise, you want to do that and you want to think that and you want to explore that, again, understand that it simply cuts you off from politics. The end. It simply cuts you off from politics because it's one of the biggest anathemas to the vast majority of people in society, aka voters. And this was the exact quote.
11 when I started having sex. And so what I like to do is put people on the other side of the argument. It's like, what you have to do is you have to say that someone like me, not anybody else, but me, that I was too stupid to appreciate the nature and quality of what I was doing at the time. So please convince me I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, I think it's it depends on the child, really, doesn't it?
And the point is there, no, it doesn't. The point is that once we start getting into a baseline area of saying we will protect children, it doesn't depend on the child. That's the exact point. We have a cutoff point where we say, developmentally, the chances of you being able to cope with adult things like alcohol consumption, gambling, sexual contact, the idea that you're going to be developmentally capable of dealing with these things, and actually what we're increasingly seeing from psychological studies are not that people are becoming more equipped to deal with this at a younger age, but actually the opposite. People are actually struggling to deal with things even by the time they're well old enough to deal with it. That's what we've seen in the latest slew of psychological studies. And again, no one is somebody that has been around people who've worked in child protective services. I think they call it the fourth harm. You have like direct harm, physical harm, sexual harm. Then there's like, I want to say emotional harm. And then you have just being exposed to sexual ideas, sexual content, hearing your parents having sex. Maybe someone's trying to have sex with you as a child. This is rather not trying to have sex with you, but just introducing sexual ideas. This is the fourth kind of harm, and this has been proven, by all developmental psychologists to be dangerous for children. So it doesn't depend on the child. Doesn't depend on the child. And again, unfortunately, what Sargon doesn't realize is, because he's an idiot, do you know what the greatest defense of actual pedophiles and sexual abusers and sexual predators is? It's that the child was old enough to understand. It's that the child consented. The child seduced me. And if you've ever been around these sickening fucks, this is the type of shit they say for self-rationalization. So to hear these words come out of this guy's mouth, who's supposedly against all that and is supposedly rational and supposedly an enlightened guy, it is horrifying. But also as well, again, you want to do that because you're a fucking YouTuber, that's fine. Saying that stuff won't even put you in the top 10% of awful YouTubers. But you want to be a politician, and you're saying stuff like that. You've got to realize at that point, like, oh yes, I did that interview, didn't I, where I said... And people will think that, I shouldn't run. This is just going to be bad. This is just going to be bad. He should have honestly understood the gravity of his entire history, but he doesn't. So anyway, we end up into this. First of all, they bring Jared Batten out, and they try and make him defend the inclusion of Sargon of Akkad. This is the fucking clown world we're living in. A leader of a political party in the UK is on the BBC trying to justify something Sargon of Akkad said on Twitter. This is legit where we're at. So they asked Gerard Batten, and again, just look at this Palpatine-looking motherfucker, by the way. Just look at him.
I'm thinking of a word. Nonce.
Right? So look at this Palpatine motherfucker. Look at him. It is like literally, it's like Palpatine went to fucking, what's it called? That fucking place where you get the hair plugs put in. Oh, what's it called? The man Zeering. That's the one. Looks like it's Palpatine who's been to the Zeering clinic, right? So, anyway, this guy can't even get his story straight about what Sargon actually did. Now, I've tried to contextualize it as best as I can with all the tweets deleted and all articles just lies and heavily skewed. But again, just a reminder, Jess Phillips got called out because she said men's rights were bullshit, even though we all know that there are specific things that affect men and primarily men, and it's not wrong to say we should focus on things like men's health. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a fucking men's rights activist. It doesn't mean that you're one of those MGTOWs or whatever the fuck they're called. It just means that, yeah, men are topping themselves in higher rates. Can we find out why and maybe stop it? I don't like suicide, actually. I'd rather we weren't doing it. I'd rather people didn't kill themselves. But she was very dismissive about all of that. So as a result, they ended up having the old classic free speech debate, you know, and she said, harassment against women, right? And it's all pathetic. Again, classical third-wave feminist, right? I'm not saying she didn't deserve to get blown up on Twitter. She absolutely did. She said some dumb stuff. Jess Phillips does not strike me as an intelligent person. So imagine how disgusting it is that Carl Sargon of Akkad Benjamin gets politically and intellectually outmaneuvered by her every step of the way. And then the leader of UKIP, back in the day, the leader of UKIP went on these party political shows to talk about why we should be leaving the EU, why conservative policies were wrong, what a taxation policy should be. He's on, talking to fucking Andrew Marr, saying, I'm going to totally defend what Carl said. And it's like, what is happening? Like, this is such a bad look for any serious political party. But here's the worst part. He can't even keep his story straight. Listen to this.
Benjamin, who's one of your leading MEP candidates, and he's somebody, a very, very controversial figure online,
surely is.
And all the rest of it. He emailed or texted a Labour MP saying he wouldn't even rape her.
I think this
is the kind of person that you're making an MP.
I think that this was satire, and he was actually trying to draw out
not good
other
satire.
people.
It's satire.
He is a free speech. He's a classical liberal, actual Carl Benjamin. If ever you have him on and interview him, he's precisely the kind of person that Nigel would have liked in the party when he was leader.
Nigel has actually publicly said him being part of the party is a disgrace.
That
I'll prove that to you.
We now want to reach out to.
Let's just pause on this. He tweets to a Labour MP, I wouldn't even rape you. How is that satire?
Well, I don't know the exact context of
Well, you
that,
don't need
and I
the context,
certainly,
do you really?
I certainly don't condone.
Well, you do need
context
context,
like
Andrew.
that,
Of course
but
you need context.
he is not a bad person as he's trying to be portrayed.
Now he's not a bad person.
Any other party would have kicked him out, and you've made him your lead MEP
They would have.
candidate.
He is a proponent of free speech. That was in the context that he said it was satire against the people he was saying it about. He wasn't actually making a literal statement.
So, I mean, you know, just something you might want to do moving forward, Gerard, since you're happy to be in bed with this dude. And again, understand how upsetting it is for me to know that Dankula's just been along for this ride the entire time. It's actually worked out pretty well for fucking Marcus because no one's talking about him. Because when you put him next to fucking Sargon of Akkad, like, Marcus is fucking Megamind. Like, it's not even funny. It's not even close. Like, how close they are on an intellectual level. Like, Marcus is, like, literally the fucking Mekon just floating around, like, on a pug. And fucking Sargon just continually wraps himself up in knots and embarrasses himself. Here's the thing. Like, you can't ever say, I don't know the context. It's your job to know the context. You brought him into your political party, you mad cunt. Are you fucking serious? You don't know the context. You know what I mean? It's like, well, listen, we've had this... you run this hospital, and we've had lots of allegations against this doctor doing these outrageous things, and he really should be struck off. Well, I don't know the context of his crimes or the allegations. What are you doing running the hospital, then? You're the party leader. How can you not know? It's so mental. So if you have all of that circus, then you're like, right, well, that's got to be the end of it. That's got to be the end of it. I think Sargon actually said, let me find this. Wait. Okay. Right. So Sargon of Akkad was doing some sort of interview and actually said probably wouldn't be the best candidate, honestly. So just listen to this.
My name is Carl Benjamin. I'm a member of the United Kingdom Independence Party, and I'm campaigning to be an MEP for the southwest of England. I will be a terrible elected representative. I'm a centrist liberal, and I voted and campaigned for Brexit, so as you might imagine, I do not actually want to become an MEP. You know, don't elect me to do...
It's just too much. It's just too much, right? Now these were two videos that were fucking separate, right? They were two videos that were separate. So there's that. Let me find the originals, right? Because it was someone spliced them together for banter, so it's not fair to run them like that. I can get both. I can't find the original now. Anyway, basically, he did a video where he literally said he thought he was going to be like a terrible candidate, and then he did a very serious video where he was like, "Vote for me," and it's like, look, I understand political protests. I understand wanting to kind of disrupt political systems. But here's the thing, right? When somebody votes for you, right, and you have a seat, you have to be competent. You have to know what you're doing. You know, you can't just say, I'll take the seat, I'll take the job, and I'll try and represent you to the best of my ability, but I'm fucking incompetent, by the way, and I have zero interest in being competent. Nah, that's bollocks. That guy may as well go and spoil his ballot. That's way better for everyone. And there was another clip as well where he said he didn't even know what MEPs do when he got asked what his policies were. Again, I'll get to that in a second. There's just so much shit to plow through when you're trying to do a comprehensive look into fucking Sargon, man. Like, I hope we're all in agreement, by the way, up until this point, that he certainly hasn't been particularly clever. Like, I hope we all agree with that. Like, any illusions that this guy is like some sort of fucking genius and like, you know, I hope we're at least past that, right? Like, even if you're pulling for the guy, basically, where somebody says, right, let's talk about the issues then. What are your policies? And he goes, can any MEPs even put forward policies? I don't know. It was like, fucking get me out. Have you even read about the job? I gotta find it for you. You won't even believe how dumb he sounds. It's so mental. What's this?
I'm not an upper class twat. I come from fucking the most working class roots. At least my parents do. Jesus Christ. It's just like, you understand that I'm a person, don't you? You know, you guys understand that I am a person. And yeah, you like, sorry, Sarkeesian, how dare I hurt sensitive feelings. Look, you carry on, but don't expect me to then have a debate with one of your faggots. Then why would I bother?
Fuck me, dude. Now I'm locked into the TOS gulag. What's wrong with this guy? Like, legitimately, what is wrong with this guy? How can anybody, like, how has the fucking veil not fucking fallen? Like, why are people defending this dude and saying, right, it's going to be brilliant when he fucking gets in. Like, he might actually win. Oh, God. It's so fucking absurd, man. Right, I'm gonna find this.
You're not even a real journalism. That's right.
This shit's all old hat. Nobody cares. What about all the new stuff? I haven't even got to that. I still haven't shown you this interview where he's literally banging on about how people should ask him about policies, and then he can't actually propose fucking like a policy because he doesn't know if MEPs can do it. Right. Whatever. You'll just have to take my word that he did actually say that. So let's go over some of these headlines, right? Like, now that he's officially in the fold, he's officially running for the party, right? let's just get into it. Let's have a look at some of these headlines. And you tell me if this is good for a political party. We remember, British politics, a little bit different to American politics. The Jewish Chronicle, UKIP candidate Carl Benjamin accused Jewish people of identity politics over the Holocaust and said he did not give a shit about the Shoah. Did say that, by the way. That's not out of context. I've heard that video. So, literally says he doesn't care about the Holocaust. By the way, guys, vote for this guy. He's a savvy political operator, completely savvy. Definitely knows what he's talking about. What about BuzzFeed? BuzzFeed obviously went with low-hanging fruit. BuzzFeed, whoops, that's not BuzzFeed. Let's get that there. BuzzFeed pointed out something we all know. Fucking hell, I can't even play his own words without risking my fucking Twitch channel because the guy's such a mess. Carl Benjamin, the YouTuber known as Sargon of Akkad, has repeatedly used the M-word and anti-gay slurs. Just found that out, didn't we? We just found that out, didn't we? Right, no problem. What's this, though? What about this one? Right? He did an interview with Sky News. They asked him about the racial slurs. UKIP MEP candidate Carl Benjamin defends racial slurs as freedom of speech in an interview with Sky News. Click below to find out more. I'd rather not find out more. This looks like an absolute fucking disaster. But don't worry, his party's backing him, right? I mean, his party are totally loving the fact that Sargon of Akkad is in the UKIP party, except no, mass UKIP resignations in Tewkesbury, Gloucester, Stroud and Cheltenham all have joined the Brexit Party UK this evening. I have the honour of working with the best campaign team there is once again. Everyone wants out of UKIP because it's such a fucking train wreck and these are the candidates. Now, remember those quotes I just read to you where he was like saying, I suppose it depends on the boy. You might be sexually active at 11, that's fine with me, Sargon. By the way, I'm going to criticise Destiny for the stuff he said. Well, the Daily Mail, of course, went with UKIP candidate says it's okay to sexually abuse boys. A senior UKIP source has told the Mail on Sunday that they have passed a dossier to Wiltshire Police containing the deeply offensive remarks made. It's like, okay, well, I don't know, are there any more like bad headlines? Somebody did make this. Somebody did make this for banter off the back of what he said in these YouTube videos. They said on the age consent, I think it depends on the child, really, doesn't it? Because some kids mature faster than others. Carl Benjamin will give Britain its voice back. UKIP. I don't want that kind of voice, homie, but that's a pretty funny fucking fake thing that they made. All right, we'll go back to Sky News. He's in the headlines again. All of these, by the way, are in less than a month. Like, we're talking a 2 to 3 week period. All of these negative headlines. It is just mind-blowing the party hasn't cut him loose by this point. UKIP MEP candidate who used racist and offensive language in a social media video has had his Twitter account suspended. Not just any Twitter account. This was his official running, platforming, his official party Twitter account that he supposedly didn't touch. Nope, it's gone. It's gone. All gone. And again, just so you can see, by the way, what all of this has been doing. In fact, actually, we'll leave that out for now because, fuck, there's more. There's more. What else do we have? Okay. Well, you see, as I talked about on a last stream, what Sargon decided to do, he was like, listen, guys, this is like my motherfucking Alamo. I'm like a certain German leader in the bunker right now. They're all coming to get me, right? And I am not taking the suicide option. I'm going to come out guns blazing. I'm going to come out guns blazing, he said. So you're like, all right, mate, what is your plan to wriggle out of all of this nonsense you've said down the years and keep repeating and keep tying yourself up in knots over? So, he did it, guys. He's a fucking genius, this Carl Benjamin, right? He is a fucking genius. Because I didn't see this, right? I'm like, okay, after all of this stuff, the best thing he could do, if he wants to have a life, if he wants to be able to publish YouTube videos, if he wants to be able to go out there and just, get his message out, whatever the fuck that might be at this point. Does this cunt even have a message? Let me tell you, there's a direct correlation between the amount of shit coming out of his mouth and the time he went on camera. Do you remember when he was just a cartoon Greek dude smoking a fucking cigar? Yeah, that doubled up on me. That was a rifter, right? Do you remember when he was just a cartoon Greek dude? You didn't know what he looked like. You didn't know he was some weird chubby fucking boomer with grey in his beard. Not like me at all. Turns out, right? Well, we thought, he was fine then. His videos weren't all that bad. It was like, well, let us break down Nietzsche's treatise of this. And you're like, all right, okay, I'll listen to you talk for 2 hours. Soon as he turned that fucking camera on to his fucking shiny face, he just became an embarrassment to himself. An embarrassment to himself. Imagine doing all of this to your kids. What's happening when your kids are going to school and this is your fucking Google history, mate? What is happening? How do you do it? Why have you not just ducked out gracefully? Because at this point, to be fair, most of this is about shit you already said. Most of this is about shit you already said before you're running for office. You couldn't do anything about it. You could just bow out gracefully right now and say, I realise that my history of the things I've said makes me not equipped for this political fight. And, I've said some things that I regret, to be edgy, to be funny, that don't reflect my true views. But unfortunately, that will be portrayed as my true view. So I'm going to back out gracefully. They'll leave you alone then. They'll leave you alone. Right? But your ego won't let you do it. So he came up with the fucking checkmate to end all checkmates. Right? So the big criticism is, you said you wouldn't rape that MP, right? You said you wouldn't rape that MP. Right? And he got criticism for that, because what are you even talking about raping a female MP for? So Carl from Swindon said, I'm going to fucking checkmate you all. What if I would maybe, possibly rape that female MP? And everyone in this room went, that's brilliant, Carl. That's brilliant. They'll never be able to take that the wrong way. So he came out and he actually said, this isn't an exaggerated headline. This isn't wrong. He honestly said he might rape Jess Phillips. Quote, I watched the video before it got removed. Quote, there's been an awful lot of talk about whether I would or wouldn't rape Jess Phillips. I've been in a lot of trouble for my hardline stance of not even raping her. I suppose with enough pressure I might cave, but let's be honest, nobody's got that much beer. I'm sure, as the words came out of his mouth, he thought he was being hilariously funny. Remember, this is a guy running for a political seat who has had criticism, quite rightly and quite fairly, for the things he said. Has joked about whether he would or wouldn't rape a female MP, which I shouldn't need to explain to anybody why that's disgusting. And then, to beat that criticism, not only does he say he might rape the female MP, he says that the only thing stopping him is that he finds her unattractive and there's not enough alcohol to get him drunk enough to find her attractive enough to rape. Like, I don't know how you come out and stand by this. I don't, I don't, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe I've had too much soy. Maybe I've become a social justice warrior. I don't know. But I just find this just like repellent. I just find it repellent and repugnant. I find it demeaning to politics. I mean, you always hope that British politics is going to remain a cut above American politics. This is beneath the wildest Trumpian nonsense. I don't remember Donald Trump at the height of, like, when they leaked that tape of him going, well, when you're wealthy, they'll let you do anything. Move in on them, grab them by the pussy, they'll let you do anything. They love it, and I just move in on them, right? Which always gets, quoted wrongly, because obviously at least there's a consent element there. They let you do anything. You're straight talking about raping a politician. I can't. This is so beneath British politics. It's like, it's not an exaggeration to honestly say this is below David Cameron putting his knob into a pig's head's mouth. Imagine the indignity that we're at right now.
You're not even a real journalism. That's right.
Good morning, you magnificent bastard.
I am a magnificent bastard, my friend. And it's only 1:30 here. I can keep drinking for ages. So, he literally tried to checkmate them by saying he might rape a female politician. At this point, why haven't UKIP cut him loose? If anyone's in any doubt as to the secret motivations of what UKIP is actually up to, then hopefully you've figured it out. It's the shock jock of political parties. Now, as happens in the UK, it turns out you can't joke around about threatening to, well, not even threatening, saying you might rape a female political member of parliament.
You're not even a real journalism.
And wait,
that's right.
I won't go with the BuzzFeed one. Yes, this should do it. So he's now, while on the campaign trail, being investigated by police for those comments. Because listen, it's the UK. Like, you can't even, you'll be investigated by the police for tweeting, something pretty benign. But yes, he's being now investigated for those comments, which I know some people, oh God, make it stop. I know some people will say
out of harassing me, and I felt harassed.
Now that's her, by the way. She's an eminently dislikable person, and the more she talks, the more dislikable you'll probably find her. I'll spare you, Jess Phillips. But basically, you can't joke about, like, politicians are a protected class. I mean, but even now you can't make those kind of comments on social media in general. So he's being investigated by the police currently while on the fucking campaign trail. And I don't even think it ends there, because what the fuck was the other outrageous shit he said? Oh, hang on. Let me just show you as well. Right.
Currently fielding a cat.
So it made it once again into the breakfast show. Good Morning Britain. We just saw it there earlier when we were talking about the history of UKIP. Nigel Farage and Piers Morgan are basically cut from the same cloth. They're posh twats who like to pretend they're not posh twats, men of the people, and actually they pretend they have all these wonderful achievements, when in reality, the reason you know of these people is pretty much across the board corruption and failure. So that's fine. They're cut from the same cloth. It's weird. Growing up, I used to respect the fact that Piers Morgan was the youngest ever editor-in-chief at 21 of a national newspaper in Britain. I was like, how could anybody do that? Like, because again, remember, I love journalism. I was enamored with it. Then I just realized he just polished the right knobs and totally denigrated that by, first of all, it was the news of the world. And then second of all, when he moved to the Mirror, just published fake photographs about a very serious thing because he was so anti-war, he let his bias get in the way of him, which isn't that what we accuse CNN of these days? And yet he tries to peacock around like some kind of moral, like he's got some moral high ground. Piers Morgan was a joke. Anyway, so you saw earlier from Gerard Batten saying, well, Nigel Farage loves him and loves to have him in the party. This was when, I think it was this after Sargon said that he might rape Jess Phillips. Let's see what Nigel Farage has to say about his involvement in UKIP, a party he's no longer affiliated with, but undoubtedly was the most recognisable politician in the party, and he built the politician up to actually be, the political party up to actually be a political force in the country.
Fielding a candidate, Carl Benjamin, who thinks it's funny to make jokes, supposedly, about raping Labour MP Jess Phillips.
I've sat here on this couch as leader of UKIP, discussing political issues. It was part of my life for 25 years. I warned them last year repeatedly, do not let the lunatic fringe, do not let the criminal fringe into the party. Peers, they ignored me. On a personal level, I feel slightly sad that it's happened, but frankly, the sooner this election's over with and UKIP closes down, the better it will be. It's gone beyond a joke.
Isn't it pretty disgusting that this person is even allowed to be putting himself up?
It's extraordinary. You know, these comments are vile.
Nigel Farage, Nigel has come out and completely disavowed and said, like, it's sad for the party to even be, you're part of the lunatic fringe. Like, so imagine where you're at, by the way. Imagine where you're at. Nigel Farage, and I think it's unfair to a certain degree, is a political pariah in the UK. And yet they will listen to you and give you a platform to give him a platform to basically come out and denigrate these people and say they don't represent UKIP. And most hardcore UKIPers actually agree. And it's this unbelievable embarrassment. Now, let me also just show you. Right. You think to yourself, well, right. As long as Sargon of Akkad had some charisma, he must have some charisma. He must have some charisma. He's a YouTuber, millions of followers. He must have some charisma when he speaks in person. He must have some oratory skills. He must have some argumentation skills. I think, by the way, we've seen in multiple interviews. Let me see if I can dig up this one from this journalist. Where the fuck is it? Oh god, some of these things are ridiculous. I don't even know what this is. It's just called UKIP, Sargon of Akkad's hostile interview.
Whenever anyone casts a vote
on Gibraltar's national television.
We're all going to abide by the
Jess Phillips.
The media is so focused on this is precisely the problem. And it's
So you broached the subject of rape in order effectively to get attention?
No, don't make me watch this. Oh, I'm going to have to watch this. I haven't seen this. I've watched all his other shit. Oh my god. Oh no, this is going to be bad. This is really bad. This is going to be so bad. It is literally described as...
I think primarily it's the principle of democracy, isn't it? Whenever anyone casts a vote, there's an implicit assumption that we're all going to abide by the result of that vote.
UKIP, Sargon of Akkad's hostile interview on Gibraltar's national TV. This is going to be so bad.
I was expecting to lose the referendum. I didn't think that we were going to win. And I was perfectly prepared to say, well, okay, then we remain a part of the European Union. But hopefully we'll have, a large number of people who vote to leave. So we've got a democratic mandate to try and reform it. But instead we voted to leave. So now I think that we should honour the result of the referendum. I think that's an uncontroversial position.
In terms of your political persona, you tweeted another MP, Labour's Jess Phillips, that you wouldn't even rape her. How is this acceptable behaviour for an MEP candidate?
Well, I wasn't a prospective MEP when I did it.
You are now, and you've said that you won't apologise for it now.
Oh no, absolutely not. No, because I'm an anti-political
No. You've been given a way out. Why are you doubling down on it? Why? It's mental. I can't watch this. It is so car crash, dudes. What is he doing this for? It's horrifying. But you've said you won't apologise for it. Oh yeah, that's absolutely right. I won't apologise. Fucking no, just apologise. Do you know how many people in politics, by the way, have to give apologies that they don't really stand behind because it's just how the game is played? Like, I can't.
And part of the reason I do what I do is because I want to affect change and I want to drive a conversation. And the people I need to talk to are people who simply refuse to listen. And I knew that this would be a moral offence, but not a legal offence, that they wouldn't be able to refuse. They would have to acknowledge that I existed. And acknowledging my existence is acknowledging principled opposition to the things that they're doing.
Isn't this like just some mad, by the way, like mental? Like, does he even believe the shit he's saying to justify the joke he made? Why not just say, I just made a joke? Whatever. It was a contextual joke at the time that made sense. He's going, I was playing this unbelievable game of like interdimensional Jenga and I fooled you all. I made a rape joke and I knew you wouldn't be able to ignore me and I knew I'd end up running for a political office and I knew that when I did, all you would talk about was this, and it would give me a platform that... Fuck off. Who are you fucking kidding with this shit? Who are you kidding? Nobody buys it, by the way. Just you, and I don't think you really believe it, mate. You made a fucking edgy rape joke to appeal to your edgy fucking audience, right? And that's fine if you just want to be an edgelord. This is politics now, motherfucker. Different world. You've been given so many outs as well. You could have come out on day one and say, I would like to, now that I'm running to be a member of parliament, I'd like to extend an apology to Jess Phillips. I made a joke about rape. It was really inappropriate, but that was in a different role. I was trying to be satirical. I was trying to be edgy. I was trying to draw attention to it, but I want to extend a full apology to her now that we are on the same playing field. And then, boom, you've just neutralised all of her criticism of you. Day one, you do that. No, you didn't, because you're a fucking moron. Right, anyway.
Jess Phillips is a radical feminist, and she's just not interested in having a discussion on the fact that suicide is the #1 killer for men under 45, for example. My uncle committed suicide. I find this very concerning that there are feminist groups in Parliament who actively block debates on this in Parliament that was tabled by Shipley MP Philip Davies. And they won't listen to reason. They won't listen to the other side of the argument. So I'm sorry, don't make me be offensive. Just come and talk to me instead. I'm very reasonable and more than happy.
It's everything about this guy, like some demented, like just incel copybook. Now listen, you radical feminists, don't make me be offensive. Don't make me threaten to rape you. Just come and talk to me. I'm a reasonable guy. Like, fucking hell. How many fedoras does this cunt own? It's unbelievable. I can't. People, like, mate, people think he's winning. People think he's winning and he looks smart. People think he's winning and he looks smart. Like, I can't. Right.
Happy to have a conversation.
So you broached the subject of rape in order effectively to get attention?
Well, it's not the subject of rape. I specifically created a tweet that I knew would be offensive, but could categorically never be described as a rape tweet, and yet that's what the media has been saying. It's just not. It's just an offensive joke.
You've also said there's a link between women's entry into politics and the decline of society. How taking that with... yes, it's on...
You have, mate.
Online.
We listened to it.
Well, you refute that statement that you never said it.
I'm sorry, that's not true.
Taking into account your
it was true.
Phillips about rape, how do you expect women
we all heard it.
Well, why shouldn't they? They have the same concerns as men, surely. Are they not concerned about the politicization of our institutions? Are they not concerned about mass immigration? Are they not concerned about the sovereignty of our country? You know, this was a political tactic. This is not, you know, representative of me, and it happened 3 years ago.
Right. All right. Let me... Okay, I think it's important we just play these quotes episode.
That I knew would be offensive, but could categorically never be described as a rape tweet, and yet that's what the media has been saying. It's just not. It's just an offensive joke.
You've also said there's a link between women's entry into politics and the decline of society. How taking that with... yes, it's on record online.
No, that's not true.
Okay. Okay. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. But it is though. But it's not true. But it is. But it's not. So,
as you say, men were the ones who were generally involved in politics, which is something different. Now women are also involved in politics, and frankly, society is declining.
Right. It can't be this easy. It just can't be. It just can't be this easy, though.
Taking that with, yes, it's on.
It's a joke.
You've also said there's a link between women's entry into politics and the decline of society. How taking that with, yes, it's on record online.
No, that's not true.
And that they're going to be comfortable doing that. You have to realize that political action in this respect is incredibly important for women, and then they were able to achieve that only recently. So obviously they didn't have that same kind of
politics. We're talking about society, social groups, things that are outside of the state.
Okay, did you not hear the first part of what I just said?
Sorry,
women
I must have
were
missed
also
it.
excluded from participating in certain activities. Without political power, they were not able to actually go out and open these environments so that they could also participate in them, including the workforce. So
well, can you give me an
obviously
example?
It's unfortunately a slow.
How did I go past it? Let's try that again. Let's just try that again to make sure I'm not going crazy. Right. So.
Did a tweet that I knew would be offensive, but could categorically never be described as a rape tweet, and yet that's what the media has been saying. It's just not. It's just an offensive joke.
You've also said there's a link between women's entry into politics and the decline of society. How taking that with, yes, it's on record online.
No, that's not true. I'm sorry.
Well, you refute that statement. You never said it.
I'm sorry. That's not true.
But then,
you know, because men, as you say, men were the ones who were generally involved in politics, which is something different. Now women are also involved in politics, and frankly, society is declining.
Like, I don't know what to say. Like, is it? Am I being crazy? Is it like? Is it wrong to say that he did say that? And I know it looks like she's had a really strong E. Like, she's had the Mitsubishi turbos. Fucking hell, Rich. Yeah. But, like, he said it! He fucking said it! Anyway.
Into account your comments to Jess Phillips about rape, how do you expect women to vote for you?
Well, why shouldn't they? They have the same concerns as men, sure.
How can you expect women to vote for you when you keep talking about raping female MPs? Why wouldn't they? I'm a handsome man. I'm a chat. It's so unreal. I told you what I think about Elliot Rodgers. Like, fucking get me out.
Are they not concerned about the politicization of our institutions? Are they not concerned about mass immigration? Are they not concerned about the sovereignty of our country?
Hello, by the way, to Carl when he responds to this stream on his wonderful YouTube channel.
He won.
It's honestly depressing that your actions are being conflated with Count Dankula.
It is definitely sad because Marcus don't deserve that. But let me tell you, for reasons I don't understand, because I think I had a brief conversation with Carl back in late 2015. He's just ignored me ever since then. I guess he thinks I'm like small time or something. Because I remember when he did the interview with Duncan, and again, he hadn't gone fucking batshit insane. What you have to understand is, it's very important to understand people don't remain static. So streamers will, you know, have their moments where they're completely fucking irredeemable pieces of shit, but they might come out of that and they might be good. People say crazy stuff and need to be edgy all the time, then they grow out of that and they might be good. And then equally, they might be in a good spot and they might do good work, and then their egos might just get the better of them and they might just fucking go into some absolute lunatic spiral. And I think I remember watching the Thorin interview with Sargon, and I don't remember it being particularly bad or crazy, but I think it was like 2016. And I feel that it's like a different world back then, and I think Carl was a very different person. And I'm guessing this interview is about to go to a crazy place.
You know, this was a political tactic. This is not, you know, representative of me, and it happened 3 years ago. But the fact that
Guy's already said in this interview that he didn't know he was going to be an MEP, so how is it a political tactic? Why would it be a political tactic? And he says it's not representative of him, but he also refuses to apologise for it. I mean, we're all over the place here, by the way.
Media is focused.
But you stand by it now.
Yeah, of course I do. The fact that the media is so focused on this is precisely the problem, and it's precisely what I'm trying to show everyone.
No, you're
Instead
not.
of
There is no
talking
lesson
about
here,
the
Carl.
very well thought out positions that I have, they are instead.
Oh, I wish I could show you this video. I wish I could show this video of the very well thought out positions he has, where he literally can't answer policy questions. Fucking hell, I've got to find this interview. I've got to find this interview to just sync it up here with the very well thought out policy positions I have. Like, absolute nonsense. He literally doesn't even know if he can put forward a policy as an MEP. It's absolutely ridiculous. Just so you know as well, right? Because all it takes to find this out is a Google search. So me, not an MEP, never going to be an MEP, never going to run for an MEP. Yes, MEPs can ask the parliamentary committee to put forward new proposals for new legislation. Yes, they can. They can't do it directly, but they can recommend or ask that it is put forward. He couldn't even answer that question. It's the top thing when you Google it, by the way. Oh, I cannot find this interview. It was straight fire when I watched it. I should have bookmarked it immediately, guys. I'm ashamed of myself because he says he has great policy ideas. I've not heard a single one of them. Has he made a video yet? Has he made a video where he talks about his policies?
You're not even a real journalism. That's right.
Come on. Where did this wicked interview go, by the way? This fucking journalist absolutely wrecked him. I can't believe it's nowhere to be found now. It was so funny. Fucking hell, he got absolutely smashed. And he literally kept saying, why don't you ask me about the policy? Why don't you ask me about the policies? Why don't you ask me about policies? All right, let's ask you about policies. I don't have any of them. Fuck policies. All right, whatever. You'll just have to take my word for it. Maybe you can find it.
Defending the sanctity of Jess Phillips and feminism, which is very strange because she's not a very nice person. She's actually very offensive in her own right. Yeah. But for some reason, I'm being treated as a YouTube activist who has now turned into a candidate for the European election.
I'll just add, by the way, let's assume that Jess Phillips actually can't threaten to rape Sargon, right? An equivalent thing would be Jess Phillips saying she was going to have him beaten up or assault him directly or shoot him or something like that, right? If she had said that, she would also be a political pariah, by the way. So just throwing that out there. There'd be some people trying to run defense for her. She'd probably lose her job over that. You're just fortunate enough to be in a fucking party that traffics in absolute, no values whatsoever. Or you'd have been out on your ass the moment you fucking opened your mouth.
Elections is being treated as if I'm punching down at an elected MP who is actively using her.
Oh, you found it! Oh, I love whoever linked that.
Seems to be a bigot against men.
Please, is this the one?
They've been very, very vocal on the need to protect underage girls. Now, as you said, the current age of consent is where it is. But in this conversation that I'm talking to you about, you expressed a view that there would be an injustice. There wouldn't be an injustice. For example, in the case of that 13-year-old, which I just discussed.
Standards for entry. Hundreds of
You live in a world of political correctness, in a world of words as well. What I find very interesting is it's a group I can add.
That was the interview.
One of your current MEPs
Kind of logjam that's being caused.
Okay.
Yes, if they're jokes, you can make jokes about anything. Ask someone like Frankie Boyle or David Baddiel. They've long and Ricky Gervais. These people have long.
They're not politicians, mate.
Otherwise, I might not have had. Who knows words? So.
Then what you've just said was nothing to do with Brexit. So
was it not?
Where do you stand
on
that as an issue?
Correct narrative around Brexit? They're kind of the creatures of the European Commission. It's its own kind of culture.
Yeah, wait, I gotta flick through this.
One particular.
Unfortunately, the video that I'm looking at now, and what I want to get a different bit. I can't find. There was another interview where he like embarrassed himself, and this interview is him doing. It's him watching himself on Sky News, like in peak narcissism. So, but that is indeed the interview I was
Jewish
thinking
population.
of.
You've previously said that Jewish people are rich, and that therefore accusations of anti-Semitism are just a game of identity politics.
Carl. Make it stop, Carl. Make it stop.
Do you expect the Rock's Jewish population to vote for you?
I expect that they agree with me on that. I think.
Guys. Go away. Go away. Why am I having to watch this? I can't. I'm getting smashed. I don't give a fuck. This is ridiculous. This cannot be. This isn't acceptable, Diego. Is it? This is so fucking ridiculous. I don't even know if you can hear me over there with that mic. Like, why is he like this? Why is he like this? Why is he like this? You know, we have a big Jewish population over here, and what you said is that Jews are wealthy. I can't finish it. Jews are wealthy, and you know, and they play identity politics a lot. So, why would Jews vote for you? Well, I imagine most of them would agree with me. Like, fucking hell, are you mental? Are you mentally ill? Right. Fucking hell, we're only 3 minutes in. Oh, fucking hell.
That many of them will absolutely understand that identity politics is merely a way of protecting a group at the expense of the rights of an individual. For example, Mark Meechan, Count Dankula online, was arrested for making a joke. It was an edgy joke, don't get me wrong. But he was arrested for this.
Like literally nothing compared to you.
And
at least he used the conduit of a dog. If you'd had a dog come out and go to Jess Phillips, I wouldn't rape you, that would have been brilliant. You'd have been all right.
Instead of being able to refuse to pay the fine and accept...
Spoiler, it wouldn't have been brilliant.
...the jail sentence, the state just took the money straight from his bank account. Now, you know, you might not like the joke, but surely I think we can all agree that the state should not be arresting people and charging people for making jokes, no matter how offensive.
That's not the issue here. The issue was that anti-Semitism is a game of identity politics because Jewish people are rich.
I never said the term anti-Semitism was a game of identity politics.
Right, hang on.
I did not say that.
Did you say that, though? Because I'm pretty sure... Didn't we just see something say that? I'm pretty sure he said that. I'm pretty sure he said that. Wait.
No, you act like enough. Exactly how you describe black people acting is the impression I get. Like enough class. No, maybe you're just acting like a.
Thing is, I don't even want to play it because I don't even know if it's going to bleep it out. I don't even know if it's going to bleep it out anymore. Oh, here we go. Right. So he did say it. He said it, guys.
Jewish people are very smart. They work very hard. Of course they're successful. If we want to even have any idea that we're living in a meritocracy, if Jews weren't succeeding in our societies, they must be being held back.
No.
But they're not. They're doing great.
No.
Because they're not being held back. Because they do work hard. Because they are smart.
No.
Jewish people, unfortunately
No.
for them, have got to drop the identity politics. I'm sorry about the Holocaust, but I don't give a shit.
I'm out.
I'm sorry.
Oh my god. 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 People applauded that, by the way. Oh my god. Oh my god. It is so bad.
Jewish people are very smart. They work very hard. Of course they're successful. If we want to even have any idea that we're living in a meritocracy, if Jews weren't succeeding in our societies, they must be being held back. But they're not. They're doing great. Because they're not being held back. Because they do work hard. Because they are smart. Jewish people, unfortunately for them, have got to drop the identity politics. I'm sorry about the Holocaust, but I don't give a shit.
A game of identity politics, not that anti-Semitism is a game of identity politics because Jewish people are rich.
I never said the term anti-Semitism was a game of identity politics. I did not say that.
A game of identity politics, not something you've said about accusations of anti-Semitism.
No, I didn't say that at all. I said that Jewish identity politics are just the same as any other identity politics, like Muslim identity politics, women's identity politics. It could be white identity politics. They're all bad. I think we should do party politics, because the problem with identity politics, and this really is, it's such an important thing that people have to really understand, is that it politicizes every single member of a group. Right? It means and listen, like, that is so unbelievably important, right? Because the liberal state that we are all living in, the great gift it gave to the world is the separation between the public and private life. And that's a very important thing. So you can be a private person who doesn't get involved in politics if you want. You can go and vote for your representative, so you can lead a peaceful and prosperous and calm and law-abiding life, right? But when you politicize every member of a group along an arbitrary characteristic, for example, they're Jewish, they're Muslim, they're white, they're black, whatever it is, you can't get away from this. There is never a time when you're not these things. That's right. You're always these things all the time. And so every space you go into is a political space, erasing that distinction between the public and the private. These are very, I can't even begin to describe how fundamental this is the civilizational bedrock of what it is to be British that is being attacked in this way, because we are an individualistic nation. We are not a collectivist nation, and identity politics is the collectivizing of a group above the individual. It's the inversion of the fundamental sort of British bedrock of values that we all stand on, and we're doing it without even thinking about it. I mean, the very fact that you'd ask me that it's so bizarre.
In terms of Gibraltar's identity, it has a proudly multicultural society. You've used slurs against black people, Jewish people, LGBT people, Asian people, Hispanic people, and people with mental disabilities.
But never
how can people who might be offended by the whole society?
Wait. Never to those people. No. Does he think he's defending it? Does he think he's defending
You're gonna need
it?
some more whiskey to forget this segment. Add this to the booze budget, please.
Thank you.
Doing God's work,
I'm gonna need
through
it, man.
all of this for us.
I just needed to make you guys understand. Like, I hope you realize it's not even I have anything against him being a YouTuber. It's not like I want him to be deep up. He needs to get the fuck out of politics right now. He's making a mockery of the entire system. He's a fucking joke. He's exposed himself as being just an embarrassment. His ideas are a fucking joke. Like, oh God, it's so bad. But, like, imagine this being the defense. So, you have used racial slurs to black people, Hispanic people. You've used homophobic slurs to gay people. You've used ableist slurs to so you've used slurs about black people. You've used slurs about brown people. You've used slurs about Asian people. You've used slurs about people who have disabilities. And he goes, never to them. Never to them. Hitler didn't use slurs to them because he was never in a room with them because he thought they were subhuman. You fucking absolute ridiculous animal. What are you saying? What are you actually saying with that defense? Oh no, like
that is being attacked in this way because we are an individualistic
It's killing
nation.
me watching this.
We are not a collectivist nation.
Honestly, it's shaving. I can feel the quantum time of my existence being shaved off.
Bedrock of values that we all stand on, and we're doing it without even thinking about it. I mean, the very fact that you'd ask me that it's so bizarre.
In terms of Gibraltar's identity, it has a proudly multicultural society. You've used slurs against black people, Jewish people, LGBT people, Asian people, Hispanic people, and people with mental disabilities. How can people who might be offended by those terms, who might be those people, or who might be sympathetic to those people, how do you expect them to vote for you?
I expect them to vote for me on exactly the same principles that I'm espousing now. I'm an anti-political correctness entertainer. That's what I do as a job.
That isn't what you do, is it, Carl, mate? Fucking hell, you grifter. Right.
You're an MEP candidate.
Yes, but you're treating my jokes as if they're party political broadcasts. They're not. And I don't want to answer any more questions about identity, the edgy things that I've said in the past. I would like to now talk about like ideas, if that's all right, policies and principles.
Please do.
Finally, the Chief Minister has said he's disgusted by your comments and will not welcome you. What's your response to that? What's the purpose of this visit? Is it just a stunt?
No, it's to promote liberal ideas, as I'm doing in this interview. Your Chief Minister is a moral coward, he's an intellectual coward, and if he had any fortitude, he would come and talk to me. I'll be in Casemate Square on Saturday from 3 PM, and where I'll be taking questions from the public about any subject that they like, and I'm happy to answer absolutely everything.
He's treating a minister of a country like it's fucking Steve Crowder, change my mind. Do you see the problem? Do you see the fucking disconnect? Do you see the fucking disconnect between his brain and actual reality? Like, it's so mental. I can't. He's more than welcome to come and talk to me in the square, man, and we'll live stream it, and we'll have a fucking debate, man. Like, this is real politics, dude. Like, I can't.
So I think that if he had any moral fortitude whatsoever, he would come and confront me with these allegations so I could refute them in person.
Brilliant. Fucking brilliant. This is the thing. I had to show you this. We must keep on. It's too important a message to not get through. I apologize for any of the things that have slipped through. I mean, shit, man. You know they're not within fucking... I run a pretty tight ship over here. Unfortunately, this is the problem you have when you talk about these people. But remember what I was talking about, right? Like, well, we've proven this guy can't argue, right? He's terrible at argumentation. Like, we've proven that. He embarrasses himself time and time again. He does these debates. He gets wrecked. All his fans and sycophants tell him, oh, you're brilliant, Carl. You're so good. You're wrecking the feminists and you're doing all that. And he goes, yes, I truly am an intellectual godhead. And then now he's got it into his brain that he can somehow negotiate British politics when this motherfucker couldn't even negotiate YouTube. But look, if you're charismatic, you can get away with a lot. I mean, that's just life. If you have a certain degree of charisma, there will always be options available to you that aren't open to other people, right? Like, we agree with that. Okay? So, let's watch him. Yeah, let's actually watch him talk to the press, shall we? Because here, right, you would imagine, okay, let's do some theoretics. Man who has built up millions of followers on YouTube. I mean, he's at 1 million now, isn't he? Right? He would be able to talk to journalists. He would be able to persuade people to his argument. He certainly wouldn't come out like a bumbling, stumbling, nervous mess and just absolutely embarrass himself. Let's watch what he did. And again, Dankula's in this video, and put a sad lol in the chat for Count Dankula. He does not deserve for the wrecked.
So what I want you to do,
right. One of the things Sargon has literally been doing on the campaign trail, by the way, is he keeps doing the Buddy Christ. The Buddy Christ from the Kevin Smith film. First film it was in was Dogma, right? It was the church wanted to hype up Jesus as like a new and super cool. So he keeps doing this where he blinks. And again, if you've not seen the Buddy Christ, let me just show you. I don't know why he keeps doing it, but he can't stop himself for some reason. So here's the Buddy Christ. In case you've not seen the Kevin Smith film Dogma, it's very good actually. Well, it's not very good. I mean, that's a massive over-exaggeration because it's a Kevin Smith film. But it gets a bad rap. I'm not down with that shit. I think Kevin Smith's films. I even like Tusk. I said it. It's not popular. I think Tusk is actually very entertaining. I think people take it way too seriously for what it is. But just in case you're wondering why Sargon keeps doing this, it's the Buddy Christ. He keeps doing the Buddy Christ. Do you see? Do you see the problem here? He is literally out there doing the Jesus pose from the Kevin Smith movies. I just want to say that maybe it's slightly indicative of his ego that he is doing the Buddy Christ pose, that in his mind he sort of like Christ. I don't know. Is that reaching? But why would you ever do this pose? Like, look at, by the way, can we all just pay attention to Dankula's face while he's doing it? This is not an accident. I don't want to do Tim Roth in Lie to Me. But Dankula is horrified, quite rightly. And then look at the cringe. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, no. While Sargon's laughing, like, oh, no. No. And again, we'll just watch it again. What's he going to do? Oh, no. Oh, fucking no. He's done the Buddy Christ again. He's done... And the thing is, Dankula's been around some cringe in his time, right? Dankula's been around some cringe in his time, right? When you're dropping the Buddy Christ for a press conference, I just can't. All right, though. But again, he's got charisma. He's got charisma. He must have charisma. It's fucking Carl Sargon of Akkad Benjamin. He must have charisma. He's got loads of followers. Let's have a look.
Each one of you to do 1 minute on why you're running as an MEP for UKIP. Carl, you go ahead.
Because you guys are severely mismanaging the country. I mean, really, I'm just here to kind of mock the legacy media. Your numbers are going down every day.
Right. I don't know if you understand, but when you run for a European member of Parliament, and just as a political party anyway, maybe it's nothing to do with the legacy media. Like, I don't know. What do I know? But, like, I'm pretty sure the legacy media are the only people that are going to be covering you, win or lose, right? But it's all right. It's all right. He's like, oh, okay, I will now proceed to rip into the legacy media for 50 seconds. He'll certainly do it in a charismatic and not cringeworthy way.
Country. I mean, really, I'm just here to kind of mock the legacy media. Your numbers are going down every day, and our numbers are going up, right? Like, combined, the YouTubers getting like 30 million views a month. You're dying. And it's because, do you know what your rating is on Trustpilot, business review site? 84% 1 star for the BBC, 59% 1 star for ITV, and 72% 1 star for Channel 4. I don't care what you say. You are just smear mutchers. Not one of you can tell me what I believe.
Might not be able to tell you what you believe. I can certainly tell you what you've said, and I just did, and you deny it. So, I mean, so what's the point?
One of you knows, but all of the public know because they can go to my YouTube channel, Sargon of Akkad, and just watch for themselves.
And at this point, it's where you realise, oh, wait, you're doing this for a fucking bump in your YouTube numbers, aren't you, mate? You're doing this. You're running for political office to get a bump in your YouTube numbers because you have literally in the middle of 1 minute to explain to an assembled press corps what you believe and why you're running for office. You instead took the opportunity to plug your YouTube channel. It's not real, is it? It's not real. But it is real, okay? It really is. Hang on, let me... Shit, where's this? We'll listen to the rest of Carl's nonsense in a second. Two moments. No. Okay. Well, we'll do a compare and a contrast, I guess. Right, okay, anyway.
I've been doing this for 5 years. I have nearly 1 million subscribers. Just go and have a look. I'm not answering your questions. I'm not apologising for anything. You dirty, dirty smear merchants, get back.
He's so good politically, isn't he? He's so good politically, isn't he? I've got nearly 1 million subscribers. Yeah, you have the power to dig into everything I say and represent it in a certain way. I'm not playing ball with you, you dirty, dirty smear merchants. By the way, did say all that stuff that I said. Fuck you. Don't apologise for any of it. You know what I mean? Now, let's just compare, okay? Because this is long. We'll probably not watch the whole thing. But when Marcus was first brought in to basically talk about why he was joining UKIP and everything, he did a speech at one of their political party things, which he I think it was him who uploaded it, right? Yeah. Just listen to this by contrast, right?
Into the worst thing that I could think.
Right, and I won't play the whole thing.
Thank you very much. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Marcus Meakin. But I'm better known by my YouTube name, Count Dankula, which, if I had known was going to be popular, I would have chosen a better name. In April of 2016, I decided to play a prank on my girlfriend by turning her cute pet pug into the worst thing that I could think of, which was a Nazi. I trained the dog to raise its paw in a Nazi salute and get excited whenever I said a particular phrase. I wanted to upset her with the fact that her...
Do you see immediately how he has eschewed the rough edges about what he said, keeps it to the principles, makes himself likable, makes himself like, listen, you know, we made mistakes. Even my YouTube name is a mistake. Just listen to my story. Humble. You know, it's like night and day. And I don't know how genuine it is, but I'll tell you this, at least he understands the mechanics of how to present himself.
Our much adored, cute dog was doing vulgar things. As a result of this, despite the police receiving no complaints, they decided to act completely of their own volition. I was arrested, kept overnight in jail for court the next day, and charged with hate crime. I then spent 2 years having the media trying to ruin and constantly interfering with my life, several visits to the prosecutor trying to spin a narrative that I am a far-right extremist who was secretly trying to spread my Nazi views through the medium of a pug. With the judge believing every single bit of that nonsense, and for me to ultimately be found guilty, given a criminal record and an £800 fine. A fine which I am refusing to pay as a matter of protest. And this was all because I made what was clearly a joke. Whether you find what I did distasteful or not, It was extremely clear that I was joking. However, the courts decided that the context of a person's actions now no longer matter. And I'm not the only person to receive such treatment from the police. Based Amy, as some of you may know, she's known on Twitter. She is a regular at the cherished free speech area, Speaker's Corner. She had the police threateningly thumping on her door, demanding that she open it, and being an elderly woman, she was terrified and so refused to open it, until she could fully establish that it was in fact the police. When she did open the door, she was immediately grabbed, manhandled very roughly, handcuffed and arrested, and one of the charges added to her sheet was for refusing to open the door and impeding the police. Even though the police themselves advise everyone, especially elderly women like Amy, to never open the door of your home if you have no idea who it is. Luckily, we have a video record of the entire event as she filmed it on her phone, and I do warn you, it is quite disturbing. Her original charge, the reason that the police were there in the first place, was because she said, "Have a gay day" to someone in a car park.
That's a true story, by the way.
David McCarr of Glasgow was arrested because in the window of his own home he had a poster hanging up that said, "Fuck the Tories."
Who doesn't feel
During
that
his
way?
arrest, he was denied his medication and had to go through the degrading process of a cavity search because he had a poster hanging in his window. And this is extremely similar to another case back in 2010 where David Hoffman was arrested in his home because he had a poster hanging in his window calling ex-Prime Minister David Cameron a wanker. Chelsea Russell, a 19-year-old from Liverpool, was arrested and dragged through court where she was
This is the
found
one we
guilty
talked about
under
on the
hate speech
podcast.
laws. She was given a restriction
for
of
repeating
liberty
rap
order, but at
lyrics.
certain times of the day she's banned from leaving her house. And that was reinforced by wearing an electronic tracking device attached to her ankle, and she was ordered to pay £500 in court costs and an £85 surcharge. Her crime, in remembrance of a young Liverpool boy who tragically died in a road accident, she posted lyrics from a rap song to her Instagram. As these rap lyrics contained the N-word, she was arrested and now has a criminal record at the age of 19. In 2016 alone, more than 3,300 people were detained and questioned by the police over posts that they made on social media. That's around 9 people a day. And with the police pushing for more and more programmes to further increase their crackdown on words said online, it means that this number is only going to get even higher as the years go on. And I'm sure I don't need to explain the massive amount of police time, paperwork and resources required to detain and question 3,300 people, with the figure only going to increase more and stretching our already strained police force to an unsustainable limit.
Right, now I won't play you the rest of it, right? But I'm just trying to explain to you. If you presented me a Count Dankula and you said, "Oh, this is the new face of UKIP, the hip rad, he talks here, he's been through some shit," listen to his story about how he got a hate crime conviction. I might be reluctant. I might say, "I bet he's a cunt." Right? I know nothing about him. I bet he's a cunt. But from the moment he steps in and starts talking, all right, I'll listen. He hasn't used any of the vulgarity. Hasn't used any of the slurs. He hasn't stood up there, chest puffed out, trying to say that what happened to me is wrong and I'm in defiance. Hasn't attacked anybody in the room. You sit and you listen. And his humour and his easy nature just warms you up to him. You're like, you know what? Already I'm in agreement. Already I know it's wrong that a 19-year-old girl trying to pay respects to a dead friend by posting rap lyrics, being convicted of a hate crime is ridiculous. And that Britain has some issues that it needs to, needs to iron out. And people are saying, he's not the same. Since the whole trial and since popular journalists came out and spoke in him, spoke in his favour, he's got 500,000 subs. I guarantee you that by the point Sargon of Akkad is going to be deplatformed completely, which is going to be soon. It's before this year ends. Marcus is going to have easily the same amount of subs. Easily the same amount of subs. And I just wish he wouldn't go down this stupid UKIP road. It's so bad for him. It really is. And he's such a good speaker for any political party, honestly, that he could just do this for somebody else, somebody worthwhile. I don't know. But not this iteration of UKIP. It's just sad. His story is compelling. He's completely innocent of a hate crime. His conviction remains a travesty of justice. And understand, as somebody that was in private correspondence with Marcus the entire time, as somebody that helped Marcus do the initial fundraiser to help him get a lawyer, and then very quickly deleted it once it was done because there were people messaging Turner saying Richard Lewis is raising money for somebody accused of an anti-Jewish hate crime. It didn't go down too well. But I'm still immensely proud I have played a very small part in Dankula's rise and in his ongoing freedom. But what he's doing right now, like, he might get on well with Carl or whatever and might think he belongs in UKIP, but he doesn't. And you can see he doesn't. You can see the day and the night. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more to this guy than a fucking just being an edgelord. And I want him to pursue his career to the fucking fullest. And not be crushed. Let me just show you as well. And then we can wrap this up, Griff. When you're going through these VODs, I don't even know what I'm saying you. I'm deleting the VODs. I'm deleting the VODs, Frankenstein. So I'm going to have to fucking, do all this probably. But just in case, I might upload it and send it to you whole, and you can blackmail me because I accidentally played Sargon of Akkad saying something racist, which is part of the course. You're like, look, let's look at the numbers. Let's look at the numbers. Guys, I wish I didn't have to delete the VODs. Listen, unfortunately, Twitch is so mental that because Sargon of Akkad, as I've tried to skip through and find pertinent stuff to let you know why he's a piece of shit, unfortunately, because while I was doing that, he said naughty words, there's probably a chance my delete or not, my Twitch account gets banned. Like, that's just where we're at right now with Twitch. It's a fucking joke. Context doesn't mean anything. Like, those videos, by the way, were like off BuzzFeed, and they're happy to play the word without bleeps, but we can't do that over here on an adult Twitch channel. But anyway, let's look at the numbers. So this was on the 27th of April. The European Parliament voting intention, which was just taken from a research group called Opinium Research. The Brexit Party, which is the new party with Nigel Farage, plus 16, 28%. Labour, 28%. Conservative, 14%. Let's have a look at the bottom. The very bottom party. UKIP, 3%. That's down 10. This approach isn't working, and it's sad to see any political party resort to this. On top of that, local council seats for UKIP are completely getting fucking ravaged. 80% of council seats lost in local elections because they've lurched too far right. Like, most UKIP people don't like this. They don't want you on a march with Tommy Robinson. They don't want a guy going, "What's up, N-words? You're just a fucking idiot if you don't want to have sex at 12. Buddy Christ." Like, get me out, right? Like, nobody wants that as your representative politically. And I don't know where Sargon thinks this is all leading. Because, let me just show you what's happened. Because of his comments, so while he's trying to show the political establishment, as I'm sure he'd call it, while he's trying to show the political establishment that he will not bow, and he will not break, and he is too good, and he is too strong, and he is too smart. What do you think's happening with all this political pressure? Well, I'll tell you. In fact, let's get this chronologically correct. So he had a Discord, right? Wrong. Forget about it. That now completely is gonna slowly but surely fuck you over. He's already lost Patreon, right? So when did he lose Patreon? When was that? End of last year. So he lost Patreon end of last year. And again, understand, by the way, I don't like these unpersonings. I don't like it. I didn't like it when it happened to Alex Jones. I'm almost in a position where I think Alex Jones is less of a piece of shit than Sargon. I don't even know anymore. I don't even know like how to gauge it. Regardless, I don't like these mass unpersonings. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's happening all the time. But yeah, and imagine a world we live in where Alex Jones is more charming than Sargon of Akkad. But so again, he had a Discord. Okay, who doesn't? Right. I'll tell you a story actually. I'll just archive this so you can actually fucking read it. Let me tell you a story that. Okay, my Discord, I never use it. I mean, I have like a content creation team channel, and I go in there and I say, "Hey Griff, where are these VODs? Hey, sorry I didn't read that script yet. Probably never gonna do it, but let's pretend I am. Here's some. Make sure you file your invoices." You know, and I'm barely on it. I never talk in the main chat. I have no idea what's going on there. But somebody took a bunch of screenshots of this recurring guy who came on it, and he was making like anti-Semitic jokes, and I just went in there with a thunder, and I told all my fucking mods, like, if you are sitting back idly watching this, the optics are terrible, and I will fucking just kick you all. And my mods, remember, are people who've been in my community for years. That's literally how they were selected. It's like, you just hung around and watched my content for years, you're a mod. So you should know enough about me to know how that hurts and harms me, and hurts and harms anyone that might be swinging by the community. And I just won't have it. I just won't have it. So I've told them all straight, you better clean it the fuck up or everybody goes. And this is all verifiable. Right? Meanwhile, this dude is running a fucking Discord, which is way bigger than mine. He's running for like public office effectively, and there are people just posting racial slurs in it and nothing's getting done. And what was worse, if I remember rightly from these things, and sure, it's a reach, but the optics are terrible, and you should take a little bit of personal pride in what your name is attached to. There was basically people like saying, like, here, look, let's start assassinating fucking Eurocrats. Now, again, I don't know if this is a psyop. I don't know if this is a fake account. I don't know the context behind this account. That would be murder and wrong totally. Alas, we should not. We should strip them of their humanity first. If they're not recognized as humans, it's not murder. No. Yes. Maybe something similar to the French Revolution will take place. Now look. To pin this shit on Sargon and only Sargon is rough, especially when we all know there's another certain breadtube favorite that gets to broadcast on Twitch where he literally talks about eating the rich, killing the rich, fucking the rich, doing whatever he wants to the rich because he's using it as a tool to get laid. And it's really embarrassing, and it should be, it does encourage violence, and it's not something that should be talked about on a platform that says we don't encourage violence. But equally, if you agree with that, and I'm sure many Sargon other fans do agree with that, then this being on your Discord, someone's going to swoop in and delete it, ban the users. This can't be a conversation that is entertained in your names, right? So the fact that that didn't happen is bad. And remember, this guy's running for public office. This guy, this boomer right here is running for public office. So it's pretty mental to me. That we're even in this position. But then there was one other thing I wanted to add. So first of all, expect his Discord to be shut down eventually. There'll be enough pressure applied. I don't know through what avenues. But then oh God, I'm not linking to that. I'll link to the Daily Dots. I can't do Vice. Their spin is just too much. It's too egregious. But he had his YouTube demonetized. So now he's in a position where... so I'll explain how YouTube works as a sort of partial... as a semi-YouTuber. How it works on YouTube is... You have a channel, you upload videos to it. And for the most part, when you upload videos, provided they are deemed friendly... No swear words. No topics that might offend anyone. We're all in the Garden of Eden, and the world outside isn't bad. What'll happen is it goes green. It gets a little green circle with a $sign inside, and it says, advertisers want this video. Now, in my channel, it used to be I was in the same state as Sargon is, actually. Where every video I uploaded was demonetized. And then I basically had to reach out and use personal relationships to back channel to get me out of that state. Which, I don't know if that makes me an asshole or unprincipled or whatever, but I knew the right people to talk to, and I said, I want out of this state. For no other reason, I'll never make lots of money off this channel. I'm basically going to make, like, I don't know, $1,000 a month, let's say, on average. But it's outrageous that you are putting videos about Counter-Strike and esports into a demonetized state. So I got them to look at it, and they lifted me out of it. And there were a couple of months where my videos were all green, right up the board, on the list, green, 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 making money. Now what happens to me is basically all the stupid nothing videos where it's like I upload a fucking VOD from a game because I'm doing it because YouTube's not worth treating as anything other than a receptacle for your content. You know, we make $2, $5 on that, right? From like 2,000, 4,000 hits. The only videos that make any money are the ones that go above like 20K. And even then, I've seen the political bias creep in. By the numbers, always demonetized. Forget about that. Julian Assange, I did a video on why it was I did a stream talking about what a disgrace it was that he'd been arrested. Believe. And here's what's weird with that one. So when your video gets demonetized, you get a yellow symbol on it. And it says... Here's the yellow demonetization symbol. You can appeal. And how an appeal works is you click on the button, and then after 1,000 views, supposedly a human being looks at it and goes, yeah, that wasn't that bad, was it? Silly algorithm. And they correct it. On my Julian Assange video, where I said it was a disgrace, which it is, and it remains a disgrace. And I've been actually talking to some people over at... the Julian Assange Freedom Group, and I think we're going to get them on the stream. When I went to the video and it had been demonetized, it already been demonetized by manual review. I didn't get a chance to appeal. They went in, boom, no. So you have to understand going in that YouTube is outrageously biased in its politics and will outrageously fuck with channels. They've already told me... They've already told me a bunch of times that I'll never get my 100K button because they think my channel is fake and full of bots. It's like, obviously isn't. You've been deleting people every time I upload a video, and you deny that. So I mean, how do we do it? So I'll never get my silver play button. They don't want to give it to me, and every time I talk about something like vaguely topically important, they just immediately demonetize the video. That isn't the same as what's happening to Sargon. Every video he puts in, into his channel is demonetized, and I've seen people go in this state. I've seen a lot of people talk about this, and there's just nothing you can do. You don't have the option to appeal. You don't have the option to, like, manual reviews don't work. You send it off, you get 1,000 views. No, it stays the same. It's basically their way of trying to pressure you to leave the platform. So he was getting tens of thousands of pounds through Patreon a month. You ain't getting that no more. You ain't making all of those hundreds of thousands of YouTubers he was bragging about while on the political campaign. That don't make you a penny. Because they say demonetized. Let me tell you, demonetized means demonetized. It says demonetized, not suitable for all advertising. You'll never see an advertisement on a demonetized video. You make nothing. So it's like, where do you take the platform? You know, where do you go from there? And the reality is, you don't go anywhere. So he's in the worst state to be in for a YouTuber. His channel might as well be banned. At least there's like a fuck, you know. I don't believe this guy gives a fuck about the message. If he gave a fuck about messages, his message wouldn't change all the time. He wouldn't deny things he'd said. He's not a message guy. He's just a guy desperately trying to get attention for himself and desperately trying to get some fucking fame, and he's got nothing important to say. He maybe he used to have, but he doesn't anymore. And now he's doing a fucking publicity stunt of literally running for political office and harming the political infrastructure around him to do so. It's terrible. It's terrible. But here it is. In the Daily Dot, the YouTube channel of Carl Benjamin, known as Sargon of Akkad, has been demonetized, the whole channel, because he made the rape comments about Jess Phillips. And again, let me show you how this works. We've seen multiple times channels get demonetized because BuzzFeed journalists know YouTube enforcement policists. And you, again, in your lack of savvy and, you know, intellectual capacity, you're out there basically saying outrageous shit, thinking none of it will come back to haunt you. What happens when UKIP doesn't win any seats and your services are no longer needed, Carl? You think you go back to YouTube? Oh, no, you fucked up. You fucked up. You're going to be unpersoned. You've already lost Twitter. You already lost Facebook, I believe. You're in the precipice of losing Discord and YouTube. Where do you exist after that? Where do you exist? You going on BitChute? You think BitChute's going to last? You think BitChute isn't going to have, like, PayPal and MasterCard and all the payment processors pull out?